7:03 p.m. We'll start off with roll call, please.
Lon,
Here.
Powell, Cavell,
Here.
Smith Charles,
Present.
Waper, Hoffman, Rahman,
Present.
Gershenson.
Here.
All right, thank you so much. That will lead us to our Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please rise. Commissioner Smith Charles, if you'd please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. And so with that, we will begin our first budget presentation of today, which is our probate court.
I just wanna do
Intro.
Introduction.
my little introduction as our last day and we come to a close. I wanna thank my staff in fiscal. They've been here through all 6 of the hearing days.
Yes.
HR
They
has
get the
been
awards
here.
too.
Yes.
For all 6 of the hearing days, as well as you all. And I think, kind of just reflecting back on the last 5 days, I think it's going very well. I think that everybody's getting the information they're looking for. And I can certainly tell a difference in the camaraderie with the departments and fiscal and how we're moving everything forward.
Great.
So I just wanna make sure that I acknowledge the staff that's been here. When they leave here and before they get here, they still have their day jobs to do and they're all, I'm not caught up on my emails, but they're all, caught up on their stuff and we just appreciate the graciousness of the finance subcommittee to allow us to, put the slides together, have the conversation and just make sure that we're having open dialogue about, something that's extremely important for the county.
Absolutely, yes. No, thank you so much. I think we all echo your comments. It's been a really good experience. I know Chair Markham has mentioned the last few days that the process has been very different. So just want to officially be on record that we appreciate it. There's a lot more transparency, a lot more dialogue between the groups. And we sincerely appreciate everybody being here and all your time and effort. Not only our finance team, but our HR team, everybody else who's been a part of it, so thank you. With that, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. We'll jump right in here to our probate court. So we'd like to invite our friends from the probate court to have a seat there at the end of the table.
It's a bummer.
Welcome.
Thank you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Chair, could I interrupt
Yes.
for just a moment? Plus, I don't think we have a motion. I don't even know if that's something we do. I'm totally out of it. Haven't had enough coffee. I just wanted to recognize Gwen's, I believe these are some of her
Yeah.
interns.
Yes.
So
yes,
we just
thank
wanted to
you.
acknowledge you all, and if you wouldn't mind just telling us who you are and maybe a word about yourself. We can start with
I'll start. My name is Hudson Zhao. I'm going to be a junior next year at Novi High School. And I've had a lot of fun this summer, making content for Novi Dems and attending these meetings and such.
Great. Well, we're so glad to have you all. Did the other young folks want to just say your names?
I'm Henry Yim. I'm going to be a junior next year in high school. And as Hudson said, it's just great to be a part of the Novi Dems. I've been talking at a lot of local government meetings, learning about how government works and just seeing this campaign cycle, especially in this critical 2024 year. It's been really amazing for me.
Welcome. Last but not least.
I'm Zui Ponaker. I'm gonna be a senior at Novi High School. And over the summer, I had a lot of fun really volunteering and helping organize these meetings with my fellow members and also just watching government meetings and just seeing the root of how everything happens, so.
Great. And the adults?
Yeah, I will introduce myself. I'm Marion Mahoney. I'm chair of the Novi Democratic Club. And just thrilled to have this incredible cohort of high school interns.
Need to build the farm club.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, well, thank you. I would appreciate you all being here today and feel free to ask us any questions as we go along through the course of the day. All right, yes, I will turn the floor over to our friends over at probate court. So thank you, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having us this afternoon. I'm Judge Linda Hallmark. I'm the Chief Judge of the Probate Court. With me is Ed Hutton, who is our Probate Court Administrator. Ed's going to do most of the talking, but I thought I would just quickly introduce the bench to you. Of course, myself, Judge Dan O'Brien, Judge Kathleen Ryan, and Judge Jennifer Callahan. So there are 4 of us in probate. We're sort of the other court that's in this building. Sometimes because circuit's so large, we get overlooked a little bit, but play a very important role within the court system. And for those of you who don't know, I know some of you are familiar with our court. We handle, what you think of as probate, wills, estates, trusts. We also do mental health proceedings. We do guardianships for both adults and minors and conservatorships. I also chair the Elections Commission just for fun, spare time. So it's a really interesting court, a very busy court with 4 of us in this very large county. We've been at 4 judges for, my entire history, going back 40-some years. And as you can imagine, as the county's grown, the complexity has grown with the baby boomers aging. Our work is pretty intense. So we're a very busy court. If I can answer any questions about the court or what we do, I'd be happy to do that. But I'm gonna let Ed talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of where we are.
Thank you, Judge. And also, I want to add that Chris Bujak couldn't appear here in person, but she is appearing remotely. They put me in charge of the clicker here, and I will for sure misuse it. So if I'm on the wrong page or
I
whatever.
should also just introduce Barb. Barb is our probate registrar.
Where's Mike? Mike Keys.
You just, I did tap this screen because
Oh, yeah, it's there.
there was nothing on it.
Oh, good.
And I thought if I touched it, maybe it would show what was on the screen behind.
These guys can probably fix that.
That was,
Yeah, I was
yeah, measured in seconds it took me to,
While they're getting set up, we've allocated about 45 minutes, give or take. So if we can maybe keep the presentation to about 20-25 minutes.
yes, we won't be longer than that.
Thank you.
There we go.
okay, very good.
Let me put it back in presentation mode. Okay.
And Chris, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine, and I can see the presentation.
Okay, fantastic. So we're, Chris, I'm gonna go ahead and let you elaborate on the charts that are coming up in our presentation. This first one, probate court revenues, budget versus actual. Will you please take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Brent Straub, our fiscal analyst, is there as well. Brent prepared the numbers for all of these slides, so any questions I can answer, Brent has said he is willing to answer, but this essentially just shows that the probate revenues have exceeded our estimates for quite some time. The probate revenues and the activity, if you will, in the probate court has steadily increased, of course, increased after the pandemic, and still is ahead of what the projections were. If we want to go, there we go, the next slide. Our adopted budget, so showing the probate revenue in comparison for the different types of services that we have, the different years. Brent, do you want to go into detail on this particular slide? Is there anything you want to show?
From a high level, this is really just reflecting the probate budget, which has been relatively static the last couple of years. We are looking at right-sizing this going forward. As Chris has stated, that one of the largest areas that we're seeing higher than anticipated money is actually in estates. So we're going to take a closer look at that in the coming year, working closely with Chris to take a look at that. One of the things that you might have noticed on the previous slide actually would have been that large increase for the actuals and then a drop, specifically in 22 to 2023. What that is reimbursement on judges' salaries. So previously this was placed within probate's budget. We decided to move it out of probate's budget and into non-departmental because it's not really it wasn't really appropriate to put it there. We do the same thing with the other courts. So that's why you're seeing this weird change there. But Chris is 100% right, saying that we've seen larger than normal revenues coming in from probate.
And you can see in this comparison, it's done a nice job of showing our budget to our expenditures. You can see probate is fully utilizing every bit of the budget that it has, and we've steadily asked for small increases to cover primarily cost of living type increases and increases in the services that the probate court provides. For instance, the medical services, medical evaluations, that cost has steadily increased for probate. And this year, you'll see later that we had some similar requests, but for the most part, this is all just inflationary increases. The expenditures broken down then by personnel. The probate court has not added any significant number of personnel during this time frame. We really feel that the personnel increase, which drives the overall expenditure increases, the cost of living increases for the staff. And you can see that we maintain a pretty high level of, filled positions. The probate court steadily, while we're not entirely sure that there's 2 every year, because this is a snapshot in time, we do know that we have a couple open right now, so this is accurate for the current situation.
Yeah, I think we have one. We are actually hiring right now. We did hire an individual. We actually promoted an individual from part-time to full-time. So I think we have 1 full-time and 1 or 2 part-time positions right now. This seems to be about where we land with our natural amount of turnover, but we are always, trying to keep those positions filled because we need all of them.
With the caseload growing, they need to stay regularly staffed. And I'm going to turn this all over to Ed at this point because he is going to talk to you about where we're going.
Yeah.
Just could I ask one thing? So what are the educational qualifications somebody needs that might be interested in that position?
It depends on the position, but right now we are hiring for office support clerk position. So there are no educational requirements for that. So.
I think it might have a GED or high school diploma requirement, and Haley Matthews could probably speak to that more. But they're very basic. It's an entry-level position.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, as a probate court, we provide essential mandated services for some of our citizens, our most vulnerable citizens, and our aging demographics, and also it's a great thing that some of the stigma is going away for mental health, people that suffer from mental health issues, and as a result, it increases the services that the court provides, which is a good thing. Line item increases that we asked for are guardian reviews and guardian fees. That was our biggest ask, and this is just to make sure we are mandated to go out and do reviews of every guardianship that's in place, and this is to ensure that there's safety, ensure that the guardianship is going as planned and as it should. So. Our visiting judge, we did ask for an increase there, and that's just because our caseload is increasing, not to the extent that an additional judge is needed at this time. We may be trending in that direction, but right now with some more visiting judge funds, some more visiting judge hours, we're gonna be able to cover the judicial hours that we need. And then postage, just given that we are doing more things remotely, we have more individuals that are appearing virtually, so they're not in the court to get their documents, so they're ordering more and we're mailing more. But this is offset because we have more certified copies going out, which we actually collect some revenue on, so it offsets the increased cost there. What's planned to enhance our efficiency, e-filing. We're in the midst of implementing e-filing. Finally, I feel like every year that I've been here, this is my 6th or 7th time here, I've said we're this close. The state's saying that we're next or we're just about to go. And we are actually, we started over a month ago with the implementation. We have an e-file team that we've assembled, and we're going through training and troubleshooting and applying the state system to our processes. It's going very well. I'm really excited about it. I actually had to fight when I was making this slide, the urge to put a whole bunch of exclamation points behind it. Chris was helping me. She said it wouldn't be professional, so I didn't, but that's how I felt about it. It's gonna be a tough transition. It's such a huge transition. It's gonna be a lot, and it's asking a lot of our staff and everybody on board, but the outcome ultimately is going to be great, not only for the court, but for all the customers and everybody we represent, to not have to try to find transportation. That's easy for a lot of us that are fortunate, but a lot of people, that's a big hurdle. So for people to be able to file remotely is going to improve efficiency and really open up the courts to a lot of people that struggle to get here. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and our go live date actually is Halloween, so as well.
Yeah.
It's not a
Well,
spooky
that's-
transition.
yes.
That's
Yeah.
scary.
It is kind of like.
I anticipate with that it's probably going to decrease efficiency at first. A lot of times when you implement new projects like this, you're kind of on both sides of the street at the same time and sort of working your old process while your new process takes over. And then, the curve should be that it increases efficiency and changes the way we do business in a huge and beneficial way. So I'm really excited about it to see where it goes.
Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not seeing the right slide, and I don't know if it's the program or if it didn't advance.
Oh, it's the clicker. It's definitely the guy.
There we go.
We are remodeling our front counter, and that is a part of what we're doing is with the e-filing, we're going to have an e-filing office. So we're going to have some terminals in there. We're going to have a staff member dedicated to that area, and people can come in. If they don't have the equipment to e-file, they can come in and use our system, access MyFile, have the documents scanned in, and file them that way. The terminal will also be available for anybody that wants to come in and review files. So where people would come in and sit through paper files, now everything's going to be accessible on those terminals in that e-services file, and we'll have somebody there to help them use that equipment. Then so that's where our mental health office is right now. We're moving them to another location, and then we're going to remodel our front counter so it's more ADA accessible. We're gonna have some lowered transaction counters, which we always should have had, right? I mean, really. But now we're gonna have them, so that's fantastic, an improvement. We're moving in the right direction.
And maybe, I'm sorry, just a hats off to Jason Warner and the team over at Facilities that have been working with us to find really cost-effective ways to do this.
Absolutely, and Anna Rara over there has been wonderful as well, so absolute shout out to them. And then, e-services counter, we've already, I get out of order on that, but that's all part of the big picture progress that we're making. Technological upgrades and innovations included in the budget for the court. Of course, the e-filing program, which is going to go live this fall. It'll improve services and processing times for litigants and also for our staff. Part of the e-filing project, we're switching over. Part of the state MyFile is there's a state MyFile DMS or document management system that the state does not charge us to use, and it works seamlessly with the MyFile platform. Actually, if you're in the MyFile platform, you wouldn't even realize as you navigate back and forth, you wouldn't realize that you're actually moving through from the DMS to the MyFile platform. So really seamless integration in that way. With that will free up, I lost my spot here. But it'll free up some Laserfish licenses. It should eventually save some money for the county in that way. The court is in the process of upgrading all our JAVS courts recording systems. They were at the end of life, so there was no way to keep using them. They were no longer going to be supported. And with that, we've got new HD systems. So if you watch some of the cases in the past, A lot of times they weren't clear, depending on whether the courtroom had an HD system or not. Now we have all HD systems, so those cases are going to appear much better. And then in cooperation with the State Court Administrative Office, we have recently replaced all of our end-of-life Polycom video conferencing systems. So kind of the same, just increase the quality of the video that the Polycoms use. That was funded by through the state. So there was little cost to the court there other than, you know, some man hours there that it took to get that up and running. Chris, do you have anything on any of that?
I was just going to add on the JAVS systems, those upgrades. We were fortunate enough that the county equipment fund and the depreciation that we've been paying in on the existing systems was enough to cover, for the most part, all of those upgrades.
Fantastic, thanks, Chris. I think that's our last slide, yeah. So we'll open it up to
If anyone has questions.
any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's nice to see all these updates happening, and I feel like this year's presentation was very different than last year's presentation.
It's so good.
We were just trying to get caught up to the 21st century last year, and now we're
That's what I think.
Yeah.
trajectory heading forward,
Yeah.
which is great. So,
Fine.
It is. I mean, probate was always behind.
How does he?
Yeah.
I mean, here's some, you're on top of it.
Some progress.
all right, I'm gonna start off, we've got a speaker list here, so I think the first member of the board is Commissioner Cavell.
Thank you. Hey, you guys. I had a couple questions around fees and revenue, but before getting into that, just to understand what Brett said. So revenues are supposed to be, or have been, the actuals last year were 771,000, and the budget is for next year 569,000, and I'm not understanding why there's that discrepancy. Like you said, that, you know, that's anticipated or that's a thing, so why not true up that budget? I didn't understand what that meant.
Brent or Chris would probably answer that with more detail than I could. Do you wanna take that, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris and I Oh, sure.
Thanks.
So Chris and I reviewed this as part of, in the budget development, we have a part of the cycle called preliminary revenues. So we took an initial look at what we were expecting the revenues were going to be at the beginning of the year. And so it's really just a projection to see what are we feeling we're actually going to be getting, what are we not. So we did do a slight change, I believe about $20,000 that we were anticipating getting additional funding for in certified copies, as we are seeing that increase. But there are some other areas that I do believe we are going to need to right-size that budget. It wasn't something we were able to include in this budget development cycle, but it is something I am looking at in the future. You'll see, and this kind of goes for all of the courts, not just for probate court, but for circuit and for district. Their budgets are in some need of right sizing, each one of them. You'll see later on today, district court, we've already begun that process. I already talked with Chris Bujek actually this morning about looking at how we're going to plan for doing that for both probate and for circuit. So it's on our map, it just was not reflected necessarily in this budget process.
Okay.
We also would like to adjust our probate budget really and roll down the two separate categories that we have into one. And Brent and I really just ran out of time, I think, this year to get that into this year's budget. But we do have several changes planned for the future for probate court and for circuit.
Okay, cool. Thank you. The, I guess, kind of two-part question here is, because you had mentioned boomers needing more probate court stuff, and also in a presentation you've done before the board, if memory serves, I just see that graph of going from like 900 probate court cases to like 2,900 or 3,300, right? It's just growing a lot in the last few years. So with that, it's kind of a twofold question. What do we do about people who are not able to pay these fees, or for people in mental health situations where you need something done, but there's like a clerk processing fee or a court processing fee that might not be affordable? I don't know how much those are, but thinking about the indigent clients you're working with, and then second, what about the non-indigent clients, the rich boomers that are, going to need $30,000 worth of copies or whatever that the increase is happening in your department.
So there is a mechanism to waive fees, and if someone is indigent, there are certain guidelines. If they're below the
Right.
poverty line, of course, we'll waive their fees, or if there's some special circumstance, we waive
Right.
fees. I've had grandparents come in and the parents are deceased, they're taking on their grandchildren, they've got a lot of expenses. So they might not be below the poverty line, but I'll waive fees in that kind of situation. So we take a look at all of those. Our mental health cases, they are not charged fees for mental health proceedings.
Cool. Thank you for that. And then is there a mechanism or a way to then increase charges for services for people that can afford an
It's
increase?
set by the state.
They're set by the
Michigan.
state, yes. Yeah,
And there's
so-
no allowed top up or anything locally?
We would love to have a surcharge, but no. But we're bound by the state.
Okay.
But nobody will ever be barred from the court because of fees.
Sure.
It's not gonna happen.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
All set?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Smith-Charles.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to delve into the piece about guardian and guardianship and things of that nature. I had one person in particular, I know Commissioner Taylor as well, has heard from this individual who says that they pay, well, let me ask you, do adults in guardianship pay for their guardian out of their own pocket?
It depends.
Okay.
There are situations, if there's a professional guardian, then they charge fees, and those can be charged to the ward. Probably the vast majority of cases, the guardian is a family member and they're not charging any fees, so it kind of is all over the map.
Well, it's kind of to what Commissioner Cavell was just mentioning. I'm not very close or familiar with this process at all, thankfully, with my loved ones or with myself. But it seems that persons with certain mental situations that prevent them from having secure income and things like that, it just shocked me to know that we assign a guardian and then they have to pay for that guardian. And I was just curious if that's a standard across the board throughout the country kind of thing? Is that just Oakland County?
Well, no, it's probably everywhere. I mean, the issue is if you have no one to act, and sometimes even if there are family members, they just don't want to act for whatever reason. They're either, occupied with other things or they're estranged or whatever it is. And in order to get someone to act, we need professional guardians. Now, Ed did this work before he became court administrator. Many professional guardians perform the services and don't charge. Or that, I have all the time people come in and say, I just want to reserve my fees. If the person ever comes into any money, I'll take fees then, but many of them do it as a labor of love.
Right, well, not in this case.
Well,
And
it's not
hardship
always
for this young person. And I'm just looking for in your line items where that revenue is reflected when they,
It doesn't come to us.
It doesn't come to us, so that's a sign on the door about being loud. The fact that, so it doesn't come to us, I don't know, there seems like there's something there. I know you said you do, what are these, guardian reviews for adults and minors. Are those proving to be fruitful? Is there a mechanism where someone who has a guardian can safely and without retaliation speak up about a terrible guardian?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And the court is always available if someone wants to modify or terminate guardianships. I hear those cases all the time.
Who does?
The ward can come in on their own. We have petitions online, and they can ask to either modify or terminate guardianships.
Okay. Now
So if they
again,
don't like their guardian, even if it's not an abuse situation, I just don't get along with this person or I don't like this person, they can come in and ask for a different guardian.
And not necessarily come in either, they can,
I was gonna
they
say,
can
that's
call,
a-
they can let their,
Even a
I mean,
letter.
yeah, they can send in a letter, technically per statute, now if there's an issue, I get that this might not make sense, but if they notify their guardian that they want their guardianship terminated or modified, then their guardian is supposed to contact the court and set a trial date for that. So there are in statutory a whole bunch of options where an individual can make changes or have the court entertain changes if they want to.
It's Ed, right?
Yes.
Could you send me that after this meeting, like boom, 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 what someone, who they would contact in that situation? Because honestly, as a commissioner, I feel like I don't have a lens in.
No, absolutely. I'll look up the statute because that's all statutory and I'll send you that. And then also I'm gonna give you my card and then we can talk
Because
about it.
honestly, and I have the records to show it, this person's reached out to me for over a year.
Okay, well, let's look into it.
Yeah, many situations come up with guardianships, I can tell you.
I bet.
They're they're family issues, so just like in divorce cases, often there's conflict and often there's upset, often there are mental health issues. So, I mean, we can give you a whole seminar that will go on for days about this, but
Just in terms
it's
of,
complicated.
and I appreciate your responses, and I know there's, we're in a time frame, so I do wanna ask really quickly about, it's on page 102, the fiscal year 25 county exec recommendation for telephone communications. Remind me, did you do an upgrade to where, for example, I shouldn't say upgrade, now I look at the numbers, it's more of a downgrade, to where you don't have to pay as much for telecom, or?
So that's a right sizing of the budget that I was referencing earlier.
Okay.
So there have been, across all of the courts, and you'll see this both on district and on circuit,
Okay.
the budget allocation for both Infotech Ops and for telephone have been problematic to say the least, and we are fixing that in a 25 budget. We've actually changed how some of that allocation has been done. And I was very pleased that working with the analyst that focuses on that, getting these budgets fixed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Brent, it might also be worth noting that the county did just do an RFP for telecommunication services, for the phone services. So they are, there is changes coming to that.
Thank you.
I think next is Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm happy that e-filing's going to start. I was here all these years that it was starting the next year, starting the next, so I'm very happy. I am wondering, since you said you were going to set up like kiosks or a couple for e-filing for help, assistance, are with the e-filing, and then if you have a helper assistance, are you gonna have enough staff for that? Or do you foresee maybe needing another staff member for the direct help to the, the clients coming in at those kiosks, or even for the process of e-filing? I guess you don't know yet maybe, but I'm gonna put that out there that they might come back for more staff. I don't know, because it might take an extra person to be out here helping seniors e-file. With, and obviously if they're coming in, they have trouble with their computers or don't have one, so they're gonna need the help. So I just wanna throw that out there. You might come back for a position. I mean, you've been pretty stagnant with your positions. This might create that you might need a position,
I
so.
really appreciate that question and that comment, because that's a distinct possibility. And we're always trying to figure out how to do less with more, and we've done a great job as far as improving our efficiencies over the year. That's something I've really focused on, and try to not ask for more positions. And when we have, we've received some new positions. We're grateful for that, but we're continuing to try to be as efficient as we can with what we have. And right now, with e-filing coming in, we're gonna have to reimagine everything that we do.
That's what I-
Whether we're maybe that once we get to the other side of the transition, which is what we really gotta focus on, is that gonna improve our efficiencies to such an extent that, maybe we have the room for this extra individual or this employee to go over there and full-time have
Okay.
somebody help out?
But I wanna put it.
Yeah, or not, maybe.
Right,
maybe
and that's
we
what I
need-
wanna put out there. If you need the help, let us know sooner. If it don't wait till next year, we can always do amendment or something, because I just don't know how, that might be very busy. And it looked like you've been, stagnant at 53 employees all these years. You say you're getting more cases, I believe it, the population age is going up in Oakland County. So just beware, come back before, don't wait a year and then say, oh my, the e-filing created, I mean, eventually, I agree, you might need less staff, but not right when you're initiating something in the beginning. So I just wanna make sure you come tell us if you need the staff, because that's what we're here for, so
Thank you.
instead of waiting a whole year, so.
Thank you so much.
Because I'm really happy to see the e-filing for people, so.
That means a lot. We try
Yeah.
to not
Yes.
ask for too much.
I'm gonna speak from other commissioners, I think they probably agree, but I mean, for me, come tell us, so, thank you.
No, thank you. We appreciate the efficiency. I know you guys, just looking at your numbers, you are doing a great job as being as efficient as possible. The prosecutor had come to us earlier in the week and surprised me when she said, things she'd asked for last year still didn't happen. Looking at overall your presentation and everything here, is there anything lagging from last year in terms of facilities, logistics, any of those components we spoke about previously? Because I know a lot of that wasn't necessarily mentioned specifically in today's presentation.
Sure.
So I just want to make
Facilities.
sure that we're.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we switched it up on facilities, actually. They've been doing a great job in helping us, and we were gonna have some improvements to our mental health office last year, and then we got approved to go next with the MyFile project. So then, luckily, we were at a point where we hadn't started that work yet, and we were able to audible and move right into what we need to do for the MyFile and meet what we're required to provide there. So that worked out fantastic. They've been absolutely flexible with it and willing to help us. So absolutely, they've been fantastic. If I had to look down the road and say one thing that has been mentioned before and is going to continue to be a need for us is our appointed attorneys that go out as guardian ad litems, or our appointed attorneys that when a ward does, a petition is filed for somebody to have a guardian appointed for them, or they come to the court and they want to change it, they want to modify it, they want to terminate it, then we appoint an attorney to represent them. They're absolutely entitled to representation. And we never want to be in a position where we can't provide that. We're statutorily required to provide that.
Right.
But with the Indigent Defense Fund, the state did a study, and at the end of that study, they determined that they were gonna pay, I believe it's $140 an hour, or right in that ballpark. Well, that's quite a bit more than we pay our appointed attorneys. So what we're seeing is a shift in that direction, and who can
Right.
right? When you gotta keep in mind, your bottom line, I get that. But our number of attorneys that are willing to take appointments is going down. And eventually it's gonna hit a point where, because we're not paying them as much as they can get elsewhere, we're not going to have somebody willing to take these appointments. And at that point, I don't know what happens. But it's going to be a huge problem.
Is that discussion already initiated?
Oh, yes.
With our, okay.
Yes.
That was last year's budget hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have.
So
It's an ongoing issue.
And it's complicated, and I get that from every angle and every side, so we just gotta figure out, what we're going to do. Sure. And what that number is.
Commissioner Shears.
Quick question on guardianships. So are all guardians registered with the probate court?
There's, I wouldn't use the word registered, but they are all appointed by the
Okay,
probate
because
court.
when you mentioned you check on the guardians once a year, what does that mean?
We actually go out and review the guardianship, so we have people who will actually go to the ward's house, meet with them, make sure they're in a secure setting, make sure the guardian's doing what they
Who
ought
does
to do.
that?
We have volunteers who do it, and we have
Complaints
some people.
Yeah, we have some contracts, some people that have contracts to go do that, so.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, it really is. You just have to have that, because once a guardianship starts, we do have, guardians do have to submit a review every year.
Last 2 years?
99.9% of them are great, but if they weren't, they're not gonna put that on the annual review, right? So we have somebody that goes out and just verifies that what's on that report is correct, and that the wards are safe and everything's going the way it should be. Absolutely gotta have that.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
It is surprising you just said that. Thank you, Commissioners, for that question. So with the growth, how many guardianships do you have now that you check on every year? About?
I don't have the number.
I don't have
It's like
that.
100, 1,000?
Oh.
Oh, more than.
Around
Send it to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
send
we
it,
can
yeah,
send-
she
we
can
can
send it,
send-
she'll look it up.
That'd be good.
I'm afraid to guess.
Yeah, okay.
Thousands to,
Okay.
I mean.
So, and
You know-
then that's mostly volunteers.
Some volunteers and some are contract, but it's a very low level pay. People, again, sort of a labor of love for people.
Ideally, it's family, and through statutorily, family has priority. It's the person that the individual chooses, and then it's family, and way down the list would be a professional guardian. If there's nobody either willing or suitable in all the stages throughout the statute, eventually you get down to the bottom to where it would be a professional. But you know, that's not anybody's, I think I can speak for the judges, that's not anybody's preference. Ideally, you have a loving family member that's right there and willing to step in and take care and service the guardian and not charge any fees and take care
I was
of it.
gonna mention too, the probate and circuit court puts out an annual report, it's online. So, and that has a lot of the numbers.
So, if you just get a printed copy.
Okay.
If there's no other discussion, we wish you luck with your Halloween transition.
Yeah.
Coming up here in a couple months, so.
Hopefully, yeah, let us know.
Please do keep us posted.
Yeah, keep us posted. Thank you.
Thank you to all of
Thank you
you
for your
and all
time.
the help that you provide for us and just to echo what was said earlier, financial services, HR, not only do they do a great job here, but right now, but year round, we work with them and they do a fantastic job. We just couldn't do it without them, so thank you to them as well.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, I think we're all set for this one, so with that, we'll go ahead and close our probate court budget hearing. We'll recess, and we'll start again here at 1:50.
We've been here too long.
Now we're back on.
Oh,
So,
Commissioner Cavell? Alright. Alright, we'll go ahead and resume. Thank you everybody for being here and on time. We're gonna try to run a tight ship. Welcome. We're moving on to part 2 here, which is our circuit court friends this afternoon. So thank you and welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll turn it over to you. We've allocated about 45 minutes total, so maybe about 20-25 minutes for presentation, and maybe about 20 minutes for questions and answers at the end. If you please introduce yourself, it's really appreciated.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Mattis. I'm the Chief Judge of the Oakland County Circuit Court. It's my pleasure to be here today. So I'd like to introduce the other members of the court team that have come with me. To my right actually is one of my colleagues on the bench, Judge Michael Warren.
I'm Judge Michael Warren. I'm the chair of the Budget Committee, but rely very heavily on everybody else that's here. They've been fantastic.
And Judge Warren is one of our longest tenured judges on the bench.
Hi, I'm Rich Lynch. I serve as the Executive Court Administrator for the Circuit Court, and I'm here on my second time around, so I'm just delighted to be back.
Hi, I'm Pam Monville. I'm the Deputy Court Administrator, been with the Circuit Court for 19 years. And then we have a few people online.
By video, yes. Can we, if possible, to bring them up? I know we have,
There we go.
we're introducing.
Hi, Chris Bujak. I'm the court business manager. I was just here a moment ago with probate court. Commissioner Cavell, you should have something in your inbox to answer that last question right now.
Let them know.
We'll let them know.
I think he stepped out for just a
Oh, yeah,
moment.
there. See, you guys are so small, I can't see who's in the room.
Suzanne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Suzanne Hollier, I'm the Friend of the Court Director for the last 21 years. And so I've been here a few times. Happy to answer any questions.
And do we have Jeanette?
We have Jeanette.
Hello, Jeanette Miracle Leshen. I'm the Chief Assistant at the Front of the Court. I've been there a really long time, but I've been in this position for 12 years now.
Thank you. I think we've covered everyone. Obviously, Chris wears 2 hats. As you saw, she's with the probate, but she also works with us in circuit. So she wears a couple of roles there, and she's an extremely valuable member of our team, as everyone here is. So first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our budget to you, to answer any questions that you may have, and to provide you with information that hopefully you will find helpful to fulfill your roles of ultimately approving the budget. Some of you probably know, I think most of the people in the room know, but some may not. But I was a commissioner myself back, seems like a lifetime ago now, a long time ago.
Don't mention.
But I served a number of years with a number of the people seated at this table. And I really enjoyed my time as a commissioner. As I say, you kicked me off, so I had to go to the bench. I had to go somewhere. But no, I really enjoyed it, and a lot of friends that, and I also think being a commissioner myself really helped me to appreciate your role. I was a member of the Finance Committee, and I did go through the budget process a number of years, and I know how much work it is, and I do appreciate it on behalf of the whole court. We very much appreciate your help, and if I forget to say it at the end, we want to make sure at the end of the day that you get the information you need, so at the end of the day you can feel comfortable with your votes. If you have questions, if there's something, sometimes you forget to ask a question. If we leave and you think of something later, just reach out to me and I will make sure we get you whatever you need.
Oh, thank you.
So just so you know that. We have worked with the executive office, with fiscal, and with a number of the individuals in the executive's office regarding our court budget. We just actually had further discussions yesterday, as late as yesterday, fine-tuning things. I would describe them as very productive, very collaborative, working together. It's my view, and I won't speak for others, but I think they share it, that we want to serve the people of Oakland County in a very efficient manner and a fiscally responsible manner. So we know that that's our role. We have to certainly operate the court, and there are court core functions that we have to fulfill, legal obligations and such. But we also have that fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers and the people of the county to make sure we're responsible with the dollars that are within our budget. With regard to the Friend of the Court budget, There are ongoing discussions about that to the extent that you haven't been provided with all the information or additional information is going to be provided. Just so you know that will be provided as soon as possible. And certainly Suzanne is here as the director. She can answer any questions you have today. But that additional information may be coming with regard to the friend of the court. So it wasn't long ago that I presented the state of the court to your full board meeting, and I appreciated that opportunity. Certainly I'm not gonna go through all that again today, but I did wanna touch on just a few things that I think are really relevant for purposes of the budget. So first of all, I guess to start with the basic, our court structure. So we have 20 circuit court judges, and they're broken down into different divisions within the court, different entities within our court. We have 2 business court judges, one of which is Judge Warren. They handle obviously business cases, just by definition.
Who's the other?
Is Judge Victoria Valentine is our other business court judge. They also handle a criminal docket, adult criminal, in addition to handling business cases. We then have a family division, which I'm sure you have dealt with from time to time. We currently have 7 family court judges. That's about to change, and I'll touch on that in a second. But they handle all what we call the domestic cases, divorces with and without kids, custody, paternity, adoptions, juvenile delinquency cases, cases involving juveniles who are alleged to have committed crimes. Parental abuse neglect cases, up to termination of parental rights cases, extremely serious cases, very involved, where there's an action brought to seek termination of someone's parental rights. Very serious case, a lot involved with those cases.
And personal protection orders.
And personal protection orders, exactly. And then we have the remaining judges, currently 11, are civil criminal judges. So those would be obviously adult criminal cases as well as civil cases. Everything from anything you can imagine, a civil car accident, a personal injury, someone is terminated, wrongful termination, 2 neighbors fighting about a property dispute. Many different things. And there's a lot more. We serve as an appellate body to the district courts. So if someone has a district court matter and they're not happy with some ruling that was made, they can appeal to us. So there's a lot of things that we do. And I'm just touching on it lightly, but the court, we are always looking at our staff, and we're making determinations about our resources. So for example, if a person retires or a person leaves, we don't just automatically fill the position. We always look at that, is this something that we need to fill? If we have positions that have been unfilled for a number of years, and this is an issue we've just recently looked at. We make a determination, do we need to fill that position or not? If we're going to, was it just something maybe because of COVID or certain things it was unfilled, but we're going to have a need again or not? So we're always going through that analysis, if you will, to make sure that we sort of right-size our budget, I guess is maybe the best way to say that. So a significant development that will affect our budget is we recently undertook a determination of whether we needed another family court judge. Right? And we looked at a lot of different things. The Supreme Court through SCAO, SCAO is the State Court Administrator's Office, SCAO, the administrative entity of the Supreme Court, comes out with a study every so often, and they talk about judges, the number of judges they feel each jurisdiction needs. So we looked at that, and we're actually going to be starting that process again coming up of going through that. It may be a little bit before the report comes out, but the process is going to be starting, and it will include not just judgeships, but actually our staff as well, to give an assessment of the needs and really what, in terms of managing the number of cases and the workload. But we looked at the most recent study, we looked at all of our own internal data, and we gathered any information we felt was relevant, and ultimately made the determination as a bench that a civil criminal seat would flip essentially and become a family seat. So we're adding an additional family court seat. And that was based ultimately on many things, as I said, but bottom line, a determination that due to the nature of the cases dealing with families, kids, various things, there just needed to be an extra judge to handle those resources, move the cases faster and promptly resolve them. and the workload was there. And ultimately, the bench as a whole made the decision and it went to a vote, and it was a unanimous vote of the entire bench, which was something that I think speaks very loudly that we as a bench, everyone agreed we needed to do this. And the timing right now is good because we have a judge, Judge Phyllis McMillan, some of you may know, who is about to leave our bench at the end of the year. She's aged out. When you're a judge, when you hit 70, you can't run again. You can finish the term that you're in, but you can't run again. So she's aged out. So at the end of the year, she will be done. And she's gonna be a huge loss. Judge McMillan's been on our bench for a long time. She's one of the judges that's involved in our treatment courts, the adult treatment court programs, which we really, really support as great programs to help people with substance abuse issues. And she has been a real champion of that program. So that's gonna be big shoes to fill when she leaves the bench. And we're gonna have to look at that. But it was a good time because we're gonna have that open seat. Now, there's an election, as some of you may know, and we just had the primary and there are 2 people running. Whoever wins that election will then be seated in January and join our bench in the family court. And and we'll go forward certainly from that point. So the timing was good and the statistics supported it. But with that change, it does create some budget challenges, because the family judges have resources and support that are unique to the family bench through Friend of the Court with Suzanne, with internal positions, just because of the nature of the work they do, that they have to have certain positions to support the caseload, the number of cases, and lots of things related to that. And so that's something that is reflected in our budget. Obviously, the juvenile cases would fall within that as well. Just the juvenile family cases would be within the domain of the family seat. Something else we're doing, and I'm trying to just give you an overview of a number of things that I think you might be interested in regarding the budget. We are presently utilizing visiting judges quite a bit. And that is something, in the past, we've received grant money for it to support the visiting judges. And it's more cost efficient than adding a full-time judge to have part-time visiting judges that assist. Typically, they're retired judges who are willing to serve in a capacity. They're judges with experience who can come in and handle, whether it be civil or criminal or even family, cases. There are certain challenges with that. Obviously, they don't have a dedicated courtroom, so they utilize empty courtrooms. And certainly there's scheduling and issues. At this point, we're not asking for a new judgeship. That's something, down the road, depending on what the Supreme Court study shows and our data and such. We can't say we'll never ask for that, but right now we're trying to work with what we have. And so we think the visiting judges are a more cost-effective way to do that without, that huge, without the need or certainly a recommendation at this point. If that changes, we'll certainly let you know. But that's where we stand right now.
If I could just clarify that the visiting judges, all they do is they basically try cases that are trial ready.
Correct.
So they're not hearing motions, they're not writing opinions. They're just like, we got a docket congestion on trial basis. They jump in and help try the cases. So that's
correct. That's an important point. Yeah, we're not giving them new cases. They don't handle a case from the beginning all the way through for over weeks, months. We give them a trial and they try the case. So they have a very limited role, but it does help to move the case. We also have visiting judges that have helped with PPOs, which is helpful as well. So yes, that is a very important point. We're also obviously looking for grants. We not long ago brought on board Ramel, a new court employee who had a lot of experience with grants in his past experience. And he's come to me and others and said, there may be opportunities for increased grant funding that in the past we have not had. And I've told him, and as others have, absolutely, let's see if there's things we can get that are appropriate, that there's funding out there that would help support services or programs that might help the people of the county. So that's something else that from time to time you might see us come to you about grant issues. We live in a very sort of changing environment from time to time. From time to time, legislation comes out of Lansing that affects us. Creates, what some would argue, unfunded mandates. I know Judge Warren, and I think Chairman Woodward has uttered that phrase more than a few times in front of me. But, that does happen. And we're in the position, we have to follow the law. And so sometimes it does create budget challenges for us when there's a mandate imposed from higher up that comes down that will require us an increased workload, and we might need personnel or various things to accommodate that. Same could be for Court of Appeals or Supreme Court opinions. There might be a new opinion that comes down that all of a sudden radically changes an area of law, and maybe in the past certain cases were being dismissed, but now because of a ruling, more cases are gonna go to trial. Now all of a sudden our trials may go up, and various things could happen in that regard. So those are things we're always looking at, and it's very hard, if not impossible, to predict at any moment what may come. But when it does, certainly we'll keep you posted, and if it affects us, we'll let you know if it's something certainly that you should be aware of. An example of that is setting aside convictions. You've probably heard about that. Legislation was passed. There were automatic set-asides that automatically kicked in for certain offenses, and then there were other potential set-asides dealing with motions. In other words, someone can file a motion with a judge and say, Judge, I'd like you to set aside this past conviction that I've had. And there's certain legal requirements that we have to follow. But then there's automatic set-asides. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of volume there, lots of, because you're going way back in years of convictions. And we have to have people internally in the court handle all those records. You're setting aside thousands and thousands of convictions. It's not just push a button and it's gone. There's a process you have to undertake to make sure that when rulings are made or automatic set-asides occur, it's properly in the system, and ultimately it gets out to whoever needs to, through the system to make sure that those are really set aside. So there's a lot there that happens. The time study, I think I touched on a little bit. We're embarking on this time study through the Supreme Court, where it's not just the judges, but it's our staff as well. We literally have to record our time, everything we do. If you work at night, like last night I was probably up till midnight preparing for hearings today. I have to record that and write it down as if I'm an attorney in private practice, sort of billing my time or other things. And then at the end of the day, all that will be compiled, and they'll issue a report that will tell us essentially what they think our resources should be, and that may cause us to come to you and let you know, obviously, what that is and what we think and where we go sort of from there. There's been some discussion already, but the state case management system, I know I touched on it just to give you an update on that. So that's something that the Supreme Court and SCAO is very supportive of, and I do see a benefit of that. The idea is you have all these courts around the whole state of Michigan, and every court sort of has its own case management system. Everybody's siloed, if you will. Think of it that way. And from time to time, as a judge, I have a case where I have a person in front of me who has had cases in other courts. May have a case pending in Traverse City or in Wayne or somewhere. And it would be very helpful for me to have information about that case. And sometimes we can get it through our resources, but sometimes it's tough, and that creates an issue. If I could go onto a system and immediately find out information about someone's case in another court and get valuable information that might help me in a lot of different ways, I see a lot of benefit to that. So there's a real plus side there. Obviously, it's a huge challenge, to do this. It's a big change. Our current system is old, to be blunt. Our case management system is very old, and time is an issue. We need to make sure that we've been advised by a consultant that the executive's office brought in to study it, that we have about 5 or so years, and we need to be off our current system. So we've agreed with Chairman Woodward and with Executive Coulter and others to embark on the state case management system. We've been in the process of an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and we're in that phase, but we definitely need to keep moving expeditiously on this process, because our current system at some point will fail, and we have to have something else in place. And Clerk Brown has been involved in those discussions as well. So that's a big project, and certainly there could be more coming down the road, in that regard. So there's many, many more things I would like to tell you, and probably could, but at the risk of being told that I'm I'm in the midst of a filibuster here, I feel compelled to probably at this point simply say thank you for the time. We stand ready to answer any questions that you have, and we just very much appreciate you giving us this opportunity.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. We have a few commissioners here lined up. I'll start off with Commissioner Cabell.
Thanks. One of my questions is gonna be the case management system, so thank you. You mentioned the civil criminal judge, one of those judges will become family court judge.
Correct.
And you mentioned.
And then just to be clear, technically, so Judge McMillan is in civil criminal. She will be departing the bench at the end of the year. And then the person that is not a current judge who will be elected, whoever wins that election,
I get it.
will come on the bench and go right into family.
Okay.
Right.
So no current civil criminal judge will
Right.
flip to family.
Okay.
It's the new person coming in who will go there.
Right.
And earlier this year, when the decision was made that it would be a family seat, we issued a press release to let essentially the world know, and I believe we did it before the filing deadline, if I remember right, so that if anyone out there in the community was thinking of running, knowing it would be an election, they would be fully aware that whoever wins is going into the family seat.
Sure.
So
Understood.
technically, that's kind of how it's gonna work. I think you have the essence of what we're doing.
Yeah.
No, yes,
Right, there were 11, there will be 10,
correct.
there were 7, there will be 8. Yep.
Yes, and
Understood.
a point I didn't touch on is by going from 11 to 10, we're actually increasing the workload of each of those 10. Think of it like a pizza, you have 11, now you go to 10, each slice, got a little bigger. So that actually was something, that was discussed by the bench, that it would increase the workload for the judges in civil criminal. But again, the numbers and the feeling of the bench unanimously was we should do it.
And so part of me, so I hear that and part of me says, why is there an increase in family needs? You kind of touched on it, but also why is there a decrease in civil criminal? Like, does that mean that there is?
There was not a decrease in civil criminal.
I would say there's not a decrease in civil criminal. There's still a strong, need in the civil criminal. But I think the feeling was that the numbers showed family needed much more help.
Okay.
And that the remaining judges, while yes, it will be a bigger workload, we can make that work. And again, we still have the assistance of the visiting judges.
Yeah.
So that's a big component to this, is helping with the trials in all of this.
Commissioner Cabell, there's a lot of hearing time that the family judges, they're on the record constantly.
Okay.
Constantly, yeah, so that's part
And Commissioner Cabell,
Supreme Court decisions, as well as family, as well as legislation that has increased the requirements of hearings from the family division. So I was only on it a year. It was grueling 20 years ago, and it's even more grueling now. It's very tough.
For example, the extreme risk protection law, sorry, Chris.
no, that's what I wanted to say, Pam, so go ahead.
So from February to now, there's been about 55 cases that our judges have to hear. They have to go on the record. They have to, answer calls at night, and it's extensive.
From the stuff.
Yes.
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 Yeah, and just, I guess, to make sure everyone is aware of that, so that's a good example of what I was talking about, how legislation sometimes comes out of Lansing that will radically change our workload. So the emergency risk protection order legislation was passed, and that sets some real tight timelines. Things are filed, they can be filed after hours. Our family judges will be available after hours to hear those. They could literally be, midnight, be dealing with an ERPO potentially. So they're on call to deal with them when they're filed, and they're obviously, they have the potential to be timely and take up immediate resources right now that have to be handled. And that's a new requirement that didn't previously exist.
Understood.
So, yes.
So, where would it be, or maybe this is something else to email Chris, where could I see what a caseload looks like for a judge, or how big that is, or, if there's a report.
I'd be happy to send you our full caseload, Commissioner Cabell. We also publish, I think I have about 13 years worth out on the website. I'll send you the site itself, but I can definitely provide that. It doesn't necessarily break down by the judge, but you can kind of divide by 11, right?
Yeah.
Or 8, depending upon the area, because family and circuit are mixed together in that on page, they are separated by page, but they're in those totals. we also, I think Suzanne, is it still somewhere around 5,600 domestic cases per judge? I think that's what it used to be.
It's about 30,000 per ref, so 7,500 per
Yeah,
judge.
7,500 per judge.
Yeah.
So the domestic cases, they last and last and last. You know, you look at one that gets open, they still might come back 20 years after the case is settled.
Yes.
So those cases stay on our books.
And Chris, let me touch on that just so everyone understands. So let's say your typical divorce case. So someone files for divorce, the case is pending, and it gets resolved either with a settlement or a trial someday. Now, you think the case is over, but let's say you have a minor child. Now, let's say the child is 5 years old. You have a long time before that child is no longer a minor. What if one of the parents wants to change schools? What if one of the parents wants to move out of Michigan? You know, what if any number of things happen? If they don't agree, they have to come back to court. Now you have to have a hearing. So a lot of these decisions are not just the judge hears the argument, okay, I agree with you. No, it's a hearing with witnesses, kind of a mini trial, if you will, that could take days and days. And the judge has to analyze a lot of factors under the law and make rulings. So these domestic cases, as we're hearing, that's why they're so large, is it's not just you resolve it and it's done. It continues and continues, and you know.
Somebody loses a job, then the child support changes, then you go to the referee, then you go to the judge, and then, I mean.
Yeah.
Right,
It's never ending.
so there's a lot of that, and then I guess the other thing on the cases, and we're happy to get you, we can get you whatever you want in terms of our cases. They do go up and down over time. One of the things you'll see is certainly like during COVID, I mean, that was obviously a very unique time, but we were ordered not to have trials. We couldn't bring jurors into the building. By the Supreme Court and the governor. So of course, you know, we followed that. But as a result, there were a number of cases that didn't resolve. You know, they didn't settle. So all of a sudden you see numbers going way up because of COVID, all these cases that are not, you know, a first degree murder case, for example, where someone's not gonna plea and take life in prison, I want a trial, and they're entitled to it. So our numbers went way up. So over time, I mean, that's an extreme example, but there have been times where they do go up and down. But right now, you know, what we've seen is they have definitely trended up.
Okay, thank you. And then when on the PowerPoint you talked about the child care fund as something that will.
If we could, perhaps we should run through those budget slides that that were prepared.
Yeah, that's fine. Chris, would you like to, you have access, do you want to lead us through them quickly?
I can see that there. The first slide just talks about our revenues. It's just worth noting that there was a policy change, October of 22. We have a copy of that memo, but basically the county executive reimbursement is not collecting, and we have ceased ordering many of the fees that used to be charged, right? So that is why you'll see that drop off. Families are not being charged for things that they previously were. If we can go to the next slide, that again just shows you the charges for services, the revenues, and then what the total revenues were, and you see that drastic, you know, that drop off right after there was a steady decline, and then now kind of all of that is phased in. We are not ordering them, they are not collecting them. If we can go to the next slide, the expenditures. Really, I think our expenditures have stayed relatively flat during COVID, in part because like our equipment charges went up, our IT charges went up, but we also had BESIP employees who left, and that kind of held things flat. Those actuals were definitely impacted by the pandemic, and also included in this is the county share of the front of the court dollars.
BESIP's an early retirement for anyone who isn't from
Yes, BESIP's in early retirements, yeah. If we can move forward, I'll try and, I know we've got a tight timeline here, but our personnel, we do feel that the personnel increases are really primarily due to the cost of living increases. We also thought it was worth noting just that the reimbursements that we receive from the Child Care Fund, those actually go into the general fund state reimbursements. So I'm not sure that this necessarily gives you a full picture. This shows you the full price tag, but it doesn't show you the rebate you get at the end, right? So we just wanted to note that. We are slightly less expensive than it looks here. And if we can go to the next, our personnel, I just wanted to note, I know this shows in FY24, we think this is an anomaly on the report. We currently have 15 open positions. Now it is again a snapshot in time, but Brent and I spoke about this earlier. We're not sure if maybe that number should have been 12. That would seem a more realistic number, or perhaps somehow it was picking up the probate court information, which was also 2. Not sure, but currently we have 15 open positions. A couple of those are positions that are special revenue emergency salary positions that we were, they will end at the end of August. If we can move forward, there we go. And Judge, you've covered most of this now, but we do have a few changes that we got in this year's budget. We asked for, on the heels of the Crumley cases and some of the other cases that came at us in the last couple of years, we have asked to just have a creation for a high-profile case line item. It's $10,000, that we just have a little place to draw on if we have a high-profile case. We had moderate increases to our visiting judge and our PPO attorney line item to cover. We've had roughly 20% increase in the number of PPO filings both this last year and the year before. COVID didn't leave people living together well, right? An increase in the attorney appellate line item was asked for just to and it is partially offset by a 50% reimbursement from the State Appellate Defender's Office. And then we also are hoping to offer a small increase to our interpreters who have not had an increase in their pay in 10 years. And we would like to encourage our interpreters to, we always want our interpreters to get certified. And by paying slightly more for our certified interpreters, we think we're promoting a higher quality of interpretation and representation to the individuals who use those services.
Chris, let me just touch on that. I can't stress the importance of having interpreters. Let's say you have a criminal case with someone in custody. You literally cannot conduct the proceeding without an interpreter. And if you can't get the interpreter, you have to adjourn the proceeding. It's delaying the case. It's many different circumstances that obviously do not support a time-efficient administration of justice. So that is really important. And the problem is when you go a long time without increasing someone's pay, less people want to do it. People retire, new people don't go into it, and now you have a very small group, and it is a problematic situation. So those are the types of things that directly affect us in our day-to-day operations.
And there's been a substantial spike in the need for interpreters. It used to be pretty rare when I started 21 years, 8 months, and 3 weeks ago, I was counting. It would be like once a month I'd need an interpreter, and now it's basically every week I need 1 or 2 or 3. Lots of folks from South America and other places that are in Oakland County, and we need the interpreters.
And it's a number of different languages. It's not just 1 or 2. I mean, we get a number of different needs, and we have to be able to satisfy those. They have someone there to move the case forward.
Try to find an interpreter for Uzbekistani. There's like 1 in New York. Very difficult.
Chris, did you want to wrap up the slides?
I just wanted to say we had the small increases to increase. We've been having a lot more trials catching up still from COVID. So we've had an increase in our the demand on juror mileage, our court-appointed attorneys for the support cases, domestic cases. We've seen more of those. And then also we've had some just cost increases. We all know inflation is running high. We do anticipate that due to the child care fund increase in funding for community-based care, formerly called in-home services, we will see about a $3 million potential additional revenue back to the county. So we are happy to report that. If we can go to the next slide. We've already covered, I think, everything here, the case management system change, the judge moving to the 8th judge. Rich, do you want to, for a moment, talk about strategic planning initiative?
We have recently submitted a grant to the State Justice Initiative. We're looking to get a grant to facilitate strategic planning because so many things have happened with the court, with case law changes, statutory changes, with the composition of the bench, with the composition of the community, that we're looking to evaluate and determine what we are doing within the court and how we can better serve the community. So we submitted the grant, we were looking to retain a facilitator, and ideally, we have seen the Supreme Court do this, a number of other jurisdictions have done this, and we want to follow that path and make sure that we are providing the best services to our community and best utilizing our bench and the support staff that supports the bench so we can better serve those residents in the county and provide the best service that we can.
And the facilitator we're looking at is someone with experience with courts that came recommended to us by the Michigan Supreme Court as well as Macomb County and I think Wayne, where Rich was previously. And so we're looking, it's a long-term vision. We know where we are now. Where do we think the court should go in the future? What are the trends, technology, many different things. And we just want to make sure that we're, looking ahead down the road at what should we be doing now to better serve the people, not just now, but in the future.
And we're happy to report that we do have some funds left from our special projects. And with that grant initiative, there is no ask in our budget to cover that strategic planning initiative.
Chris,
let's see.
Sorry,
yes.
Real quick there is partially an ask because we're going to be using some of the funds that are already allocated in the general fund as a match to this grant. So I just want to make sure we note there is a grant match component. This is still something that's being worked on between fiscal and the court, specifically this SJI grant. So I don't want to get too far out ahead of our skis on this. This is something that we have sent the application on, and we will be reviewing once we get the acceptance and how we actually put this into place. Thank you.
And I guess all I'm trying to say, Brent, is that we have a line item for special projects that was money we received for improvements. We got that money from SCAO. We've carried it forward year after year after year. And we feel like this is an important enough initiative to spend those dollars that were given us from SCAO, to offset the grant match portion of this, the 25% that we'll need to cover. And then, of course, we're looking to implement a PPO attorney of the day because we've had so much difficulty in retaining attorneys for PPO matters. They're messy matters, and they can sometimes take a long time. It's hit or miss. Attorneys don't like to accept those. We've seen a drop-off, so we are trying to implement an attorney of the day. We have also implemented the CPLR grant funding to help with mentoring to try and attract and retain more attorneys for juvenile. We can go ahead to the next slide. And we're also, just like you heard from probate, we're upgrading all of their recording systems to high definition. In cooperation with the State Court Administrative Office, we have replaced all of those Polycoms with no cost to the county. And then we are continuing to upgrade the evidence presentation systems in the courtrooms as part of that initiative. And I think that's everything.
Perfect. I think we have one other commissioner here.
I apologize, we have one more slide. We do have 3 positions that we've been working with fiscal on. I'm so sorry, I forgot this. We are reclassifying a position to support that 8th family division judge. We're working with fiscal on that. We had a jury clerk position. We're going to turn them into a juvenile senior support clerk, which is what used to be called a deputy register. Each family division judge has one to keep their case moving along, to handle service, because there are so many parties and such tight timelines. We're reclassifying a office support senior to a paralegal to assist with processing the 17,000 juvenile set-aside cases that require manual intervention that we just don't have staff to get to right now to process, and we don't want to let them just linger. We are also creating a financial services technician, or hope to, that will be partially offset by the child care fund to help, because of that expanded use of the child care fund in reimbursing our youth assistance area and the rest of the juvenile area. We just need more hands-on to help process all of those invoices, track those expenditures.
And I guess the top one, I just want to highlight the jury clerk position of juvenile support. So that's an example of what I touched on earlier, how we're always looking at positions. We had an unfilled position. That's something strategically we do in partnership with Fiscal and the other our partners over there who we work together on the budget. And there was a decision made ultimately not to fill that jury clerk position, but rather the need was the new judge joining family and the resources that position needs. So we're strategically shifting assets, if you will, within the budget to address a need and to eliminate something that we decided we're not going to fill long-term. That's an example of the types of things we do to make the budget work and ultimately be as efficient as we can.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioner Cavalli, we're just in the interest of time, I know we still have Commissioner Powell leading as well. Do you have something quickly?
Yeah, so the big question I was hoping to ask was about the childcare fund, because it comes up a few times. Chris, could you give us just the 30-second rundown of what that is and how big a deal the changes are from the 50 to 75% reimbursement? And then also answer a question for me, which is, if we put $1 more of our local money in, then that means we can get, 75% of that reimbursed, right? So investing in the child care fund will give us 5 cents back.
So we used to get a 50% reimbursement from the child care fund, and now that 50% reimbursement has been expanded to 75% for all of our in-home care programs, now referred to as community-based services. So kids, we are incentivizing, I won't say we, but the state is incentivizing children to remain in the home, which evidence does point to is the best location for them, right? Or at least remain in their community.
Can you give some background real quick? Chris, sorry, just like, who are those children? Just like, you're going in like court talk. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So kids that are referred to the court, they might come in several different ways, right? We have informal referrals that come in through our youth assistance program. Youth assistance, as you all may know, we have roughly 30 caseworkers across the county in the different school districts. They work with kids who get referrals from police departments, referrals from parents sometimes, police sometimes. Sometimes those referrals come all the way to the court. Sometimes the matters can be handled right at youth assistance. So it's kind of an informal diversion program to offer services and connect those families with services before it becomes a formal complaint. We also have kids that have issues that require they come to formal court, right? They might be placed on probation with our juvenile caseworkers. The juvenile caseworkers, also considered an in-home program, they work with the youth and families to help correct the behavior, get the kids set back on the right path. Those programs are now all 75% reimbursed.
Chris, if I may for a moment, Commissioner Cavalli, with respect, I know that we're really pressed for time and there's another question on the table, but I also want to acknowledge that we're waiting on the Child Care Fund grant that we're going to receive, what that is going to provide to us, and we'll be coming back before the Board of Commissioners so we can provide a fuller report when that is before the commission, just so you can address some of the other questions that you and others might have.
Okay, yeah.
We'd be happy to have another meeting on the Child Care Fund, but it actually does not come back to the board. It's already been to the board. I think Commissioner Cavalli, you might not have been there that week. But I'd be happy to talk with you and go over all of it.
I was hopefully just trying to say for the rest of us that putting money into the Child Care Fund can really help prevent crime, keep families safe, because we're putting more money into younger people and their families, and we're going to get 75 cents of that back. So the more we put into that, the safer our communities that will be and the cheaper it is. And we can help with this guardian ad litem situation that they've had for years and all sorts of things. And this can be split between Children's Village, Friend of the Court, the Circuit Court, Youth Assistance, all these different things. And it's mostly funded by the state, so it's freaking awesome.
Commissioner?
Yeah.
One note I would make on that is that the in-home care or as community-based service, that is within Circuit Court, which represents about 20% of the Child Care Fund budget. 75% is actually over in Children's Village.
Right.
So when we're really talking about this 75% reimbursement, the 75 cents on every dollar, it only applies to those in-home care, which is truly, a portion of that 20% of Child Care Fund budget. So it's really a targeted reimbursement to assist counties that have for a long time been putting in 50%. They're now the state is trying to assist counties in offsetting some of that cost by giving that additional 25% reimbursement. So I do want to make sure that we're not thinking that every dollar we spend, we're getting 75 cents back, because that is not the case. So I want to make sure I know that.
But we are getting 50 cents back, and what we're talking about in Health and Human Services is expanding out-of-home care so we can have more community-based services to get more 75 cents back. I appreciate that.
Yes.
It is to your point, it is beneficial.
Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner Paul?
Commissioner Cavell, it is worth noting that it really is a savings to the county in the long run, right? If we can invest in these kids early on, as you pointed out, and get them on the right track, it's a savings in the long run before they grow into it.
Commissioner Powell has a question. We need to move on.
I think we want to make sure everyone can ask questions.
Thanks, everybody. I have two quick ones, but it's more so just to kind of dive in on just some additional information. With the interpreters, when y'all say over 10 years with the interpreters, are those interpreters that we kind of somehow contractual do something with them on our own, or are we going through third-party agencies? And because they've been with us so long, we're looking to incentivize the one that's longer with us more. I'm just trying to get clarity on that part.
They have to be certified, and so we usually go to an agency that has the people on.
Can I expand on this? So the State Court Administrative Office certifies, they do tests for certification and qualification of these interpreters. The court goes to those lists first for those individuals. Some unique languages we can't find, and we'll go to agencies. Or if we go to the list and then we look for an interpreter and they're like, no, we won't work for $60 an hour, right? So then we have to go to an agency and get an interpreter through that.
Got it. Okay, so when you still noticed on there that it was like 10 years plus, is it just this agency that we've been dealing with?
No, there's several agencies.
So where is that slight, so how are y'all defining this slight increase you all are giving to interpreters who's did 10 plus years? How are y'all figuring that out?
$60 for certified interpreters and $45 for qualified interpreters based on whether they meet the scale guidelines, right? Whether they've taken the certification test. Not every language has a certification test, as Pam said. Those are the individuals that we want to pay more to, because when we have to go to an agency, we actually do pay more with the agencies.
Got it, okay.
So we would like to pay more for our certified and qualified and encourage more people to get certified.
These are interpreters with language barriers and also disabilities such as hearing loss, sign, like,
Some are sign language, some are sign language interpreters, yeah.
My parents deaf, so I was just interested in this interpreter space. And then when you made note about that community component eventually looking down the road, that project, well, I'm gonna reference it as a project coming up that you all have to do this future outlook, right? When you say more engaged, like, well, I don't know if that's not the word you use, but to me, the perception was like more kind of like maybe engaging with the communities or that community piece. Like, what is an example of something that could, in y'all line of work, like, what is that? Because too, you are in a space where I don't know how much you would engage.
I'll give you an example.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, for security, it's just,
right. We have Constitution Day every year. As part of Patriot Week, and so we bring in 300 middle school or high school students into and we teach them about the Constitution, and then we have breakout sessions and little mock trials.
Got it, okay.
In usually about a dozen courtrooms, and we come back and we have a guy dressed up like James Madison. We have a big quiz, and so it's a lot of fun. If you haven't been there, you should go. And it's so that's just one thing that we do. We've created a U in the law, like a baby treatise for high school students that are graduating. Like, these are the things that you should really know before you go out and vote and participate in the society. It's kind of a review of their legal rights, and we did that in conjunction with the Supreme Court. So that's linked on the Supreme Court. We should have it linked on the county, hopefully. I know it's on the Patriot Week website. So we've done things like that.
Okay, okay. Now, and I'm familiar with stuff like that, but when he was saying, oh, man, I'm like, wait a minute, how much in the community can they really get involved?
Rich, did you want to add something?
Yes, Commissioner Powell.
Yeah,
We
One
have some
second,
other
Chris.
things that we're also doing. One of them is we are working closely with the county clerk's office to develop a more robust self-help center. A lot of people in the community don't have the knowledge or the resources to hire an attorney. Therefore, they come to court, they are looking for solutions, they don't necessarily understand the process or what they need to do to get into the system to address a need. A common situation that both Judge Warren and Judge Mattis can speak to is when individuals have to file a motion to set aside a conviction because they're not eligible for relief under Project Clean Slate. They will come to the court and they essentially submit a handwritten paper saying, I want to set aside my conviction. I've been good, please do it. Well, legally that doesn't qualify. But through a self-help center, we can put these individuals into touch with navigation tools that move them forward so they can get a legally qualified document so they can put something that the court can consider, which is very important, and it provides better access. Because frankly, we operate a legal monopoly. People don't have another place to go to utilize our services to get the relief that we provide. But through services like those that Judge Warren mentioned, through things like the Self-Help Center, through things like providing language access to people who have limited English proficiency or deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing. This provides access to the institution and allows people to derive a benefit they otherwise may not have. And it builds public trust and confidence in the courts to allow us to move forward in a more effectual manner.
And another quick example is we have an e-filing center where people, because now most people have to file electronically, some people aren't equipped for that, and they can come in with their documents and be able to access the court by the help that's provided at the e-filing center, which is down the hall.
And I will say, I've used it.
Okay.
I had to help my husband with it, so I've used it, and thank you, it is, and thank you for having the staff in there, cause they help kind of shepherd that, cause it is intimidating, having to, oh my God, now you have to, and I felt like that. I'm like, now why I gotta do all this? Ain't that what y'all supposed to do? They like, no, and they make you do it too, so, which is good. So, I just.
Certainly the clerk's office is involved in a number of things we're talking about as well, so I give credit to the clerk's office.
Yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to say is Cavell, you know how they was prolonging and giving an example of that case? Yeah, we can talk more about that, cause I've been in that too, okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wiper?
Super brief. I appreciate the 10,000 line item for high-profile cases. The prosecutor's office came to us during that case, so we staffed it and gave money for that, but didn't think the back end of it, the court
absolutely
really had a lot of extra work too.
Yeah, the high-profile cases, and there's a number of them I can mention that you would all know, do create increased responsibility, workload on us in many respects. And I guess I'd echo, you heard from the prosecutor, certainly they had increased resources, but the court side, we did as well.
And I know you've been working with fiscal up to even last night and through today, because I know, and just all our budgets are working together. And all this Children's Village, we had Children's Village come through, and we talked about all the funds, and they have less folks over there, and it's changing the dynamics, right? And the prosecutor's office asked us to help fund that they might get a diversion. They're gonna try for which would help lower your caseload at some point, if you never see a case come. They're talking about that, so we were addressing that. So all the different budgets we've been handling all week are affecting every little department, so, and I know fiscal's gonna work with it, so it's good.
Perfect. That's it. Thank you, justices. We appreciate all of your hard work and your presentation.
We appreciate it, and again, I just repeat what I said before, if you have further questions, you want other information, or really at any time for that matter, anything involving the court, you're looking for information, reach out to me, I'll make sure whoever it is will get back to you, we'll get you whatever you need.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you everyone. Thank you to our friends at Fiscal, thank you. Thank you.
So with that, we'll take a quick recess.
Your Honors, I don't know if you saw earlier, we have high school students who know I can't watch.
Yeah, you don't get so many opportunities.
All right, thank you, everybody. Let's go ahead and reconvene. And this is going to be our next budget hearing for the 52nd District Court. With that, we have several folks here at the table, so welcome. Thank you for being here today. If you don't mind, I guess we'll first do introductions, and we're trying our best to keep everything to about 45 minutes. I know we're familiar with all of you, and we'll probably talk forever, but
Much less.
if we can aim for about 20 minutes presentation.
Thank you, G.
And about 20 minutes for Q&A, we would be appreciative, and I know our next group will be very appreciative as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for introductions.
All right, so good afternoon. My name is Travis Reeds. I'm the new Chief Judge for the 52nd District Court. I work in the First Division, which is in Novi. And we have all of our deputies from each of the different buildings, our 4 buildings here. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Amy Luce from 52-3 in Rochester.
Jennifer Phillips, 52-4, Clausen and Troy.
Alexandra Black, Novi.
Brett Derry, Clarkston.
And we're really lucky because each of the admins does a great job running their building, but each of them also has special skill sets that really help me out because I've never been Chief Judge before. Our budget person happens to be Alex, so she's going to be doing our presentation, which I'm hoping will be far less than 10 minutes. I did want to just kind of start out, since I've never done this before, this is my first experience here. It's been very, very nice working with Mr. Leffler's office, with Ms. Johnson. They have been approachable. They have explained things to us, things that I've never experienced, the budget things, but they were very helpful. And we really appreciate the support we get from the county and from their office too in explaining things and helping us work through issues. So we're very happy with where we're at. We're very pleased with the county's response to our inquiries, and I don't think we're going to be asking for anything today, so.
You sure, cause she know how to get us to get what she wants.
Yeah. She told me to make it.
Yes, I know you guys are familiar with me and usually I have much more to say, but really, I just want to echo his sentiments that it's been very refreshing working with this department. It's a lot different than a lot of my other experiences, so it's been really nice. We've had a lot of one-on-one conversations and just very open. I just appreciate that they want to understand our function, really, and that's really nice because we've had a lot of commissioners try to understand our function, but we haven't always had that relationship necessarily when it comes to budget time. So it's been much better than ever. So thank you.
Yeah.
So starting with our first slide, sorry I have my laptop, but department revenues budget versus actual, obviously everyone can see it's very glaring that 2020, 2021, 22, 23, we have this drastic difference between actuals and adopted amended. And I just want to stress that we've continued to work with this new department in bringing things more in line with what we've been saying for a long time. We had a little difficulty in the past making sure that others understood that we can only do what we can do, right, as far as revenues go. We can only collect what we can collect based on caseload and different laws and things that change along the way. So we really appreciate that we're able to have something that's a little more reflective of what you can actually expect. So working with that, we're hoping going forward 2024, 2025 will be much closer to our actuals. Okay. Going on to slide 3. Again, looking at the difference, I love these charts that they made actually. I did not do this, as you know.
Am I doing the thing?
Oh, yeah,
Hold on.
sorry.
No, I'm in charge. I got it.
You're in charge of that.
I got it.
I thought you were supposed to just nod your head. You agreed beforehand, just
Right,
nod
we
your head.
agreed to a lot of nodding, so. Again, talking about the revenues, where we've been, obviously you see the reduction. The reduction again are things we cannot control. We do what we can control. We do our tax garnishments, wage garnishments, wage assignments. We do amnesty projects. We've done, we each have assigned people for collections to try to work with people the best we can, collecting the collectibles, and some people just are not collectible, but we want to make payment plans that are reasonable for people along the way. So the revenues are where they are. Slide, ma'am.
Oh, right.
Thank you. So, oh yeah, I forgot to change my own. So the next, so the next one, expenditures, budget versus actual. As you can see, we've always come right underneath, what our actuals are. We don't see any reason why we won't be able to stay under that. Obviously, when we make changes in salaries for people, for the county, we don't have control over that, but things change accordingly. We don't foresee anything major where we're gonna be going over our expenditures. We will probably be right in line with where we're supposed to be. Okay. This next one, again, you see the expenditures going up, and it's really a lot of that is going to be in your salaries, right, Brent? Yes, okay. So a lot of that's gonna be in our salaries. We haven't changed much about our operating, as far as that goes. So next. See, I told you, less than 10 minutes, right? So we just wanna, I made a notation for the vacant positions that shows that we have, because, you know, in the past, we've asked for positions, and then you'd be like, why would you ask for positions? You've got vacant positions. We do not. Our position report is reflective of, we've had emergency salary personnel when somebody goes off on leave, and they leave those position numbers on our report. They're not positions we can just willy-nilly just fill. They're when somebody's gone off of leave. So those are still there. And then we also have magistrate. There's always an open magistrate position in case somebody were to go off. We have to, the way we used to do it is they used to all split basically a position number. We have to have position numbers for each one, even though we're not doing any more hours for any of them. So I just want to explain that we'll always have a magistrate position, is my understanding, right, Ely? Yes, okay. So the discussion points that you had sent to us, how will the budget support the operations priorities? You can read this obviously, but the proposed budget is sufficient to support our operations and priorities at the current level. We have requested the additional funds for travel and conference because again, with inflation, we've had our travel and conference line items have really been the same for many years, and obviously it's not enough to send people when we want to. We don't do a great deal of travel and conference, but it's mainly in the areas of specialty courts. We never had anything in the chief judge budget for the chief judge to do travel. It always fell upon the court that housed the chief judge, which we determined probably wasn't the best way to really reflect what we're using that travel for. So they did provide us with some funds there. We've asked for some more funds to support more tax garnishments to increase the collection of revenue, so that will obviously be offset, but they did work with us on that. Funds were needed for software maintenance to complete the video recording project in Troy, and we have that now. All of them have been supported, which is awesome. The recent past 2 weeks, we were advised that there's going to be an increase in cost for the software and equipment for that new video equipment. We've been trying to work with purchasing to try to figure out these invoicing issues, and we have a meeting set up to clarify that. It's not a huge amount of money, but we're fiscally responsible, and we see a new invoice come through for something that we don't understand or didn't expect. We want to make sure that we're getting on top of that, so we're resolving that issue, okay? And then what initiatives are planned to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of court services? Well, as we've talked about a million times in here, the video courtrooms, they've worked out fantastic. I'm really glad we went with that project. The Civil MyFile has made it so much easier for people to get their court business done. You know, you never really want the new stuff because you know it's gonna cause a lot of work for everybody to learn, but once those types of things like MyFile are in place, it does make life a lot easier for our patrons, and the attorneys, they can file things without coming to the counter to do that. It still takes the same amount of manpower for our clerks, but they're doing a lot less face-to-face at that counter and taking things. They still have to go through things to either accept or reject, but it does make our efficiency for the public much better. And then we've got the automated check-in. Shout out to IT department that we've been working with, thank God. Right? I'm right. It's, thank God, it's like crazy. Again, the difference working with them. We finally got on that probation automated check-in, and it just does a brief overview for anybody who missed it. You know, in the past, you'd walk up, say, I'm here to see probation officer so-and-so. Somebody had to go out to the counter, hand you a form, fill out the form, bring the form back to you, take the file, walk it over to the probation officer. Well, in our cuts a while ago, I had eliminated our probation clerical staff, so then now the probation officer's gotta go give the form, or we had to pull somebody from the criminal division. So I had suggested this when those cuts occurred, like we could do this in an automated way, just like when you go to a doctor's office, you walk up to the iPad, you hit where you're going to see, you fill out your little form and you sit down. It worked out great. IT did it perfectly. I was so proud and pleased of how, like, because it's difficult when you don't understand our processes to come up, to be able to do it perfectly. And so we started out with Troy and Novi, so Jen and I got it first, and then it worked so well that now Clarkston and Rochester are implementing that. So we're really happy about that.
Right.
And then we're preparing for the implementation of criminal and traffic MyFile. So the state has told us that we would get that within 2 years. It's gonna be a much bigger undertaking than civil MyFile, but at least we have that background and we have people who understand it now in our building. So there are more cases that we'll be, you know, having to switch over, and it's a little stressful, but we're looking forward to it. So that'll be the next thing that will provide us with some efficiency. Go ahead to the next one. And then can we detail any technological updates, upgrades or innovations? The new budget will add $14,000 for the necessary software. And we currently utilize 3 contractual user support specialists. We had asked for these positions last year, and we were given these contractual positions to support us, especially with MyFile and the video courtrooms. But on top of it, remembering that we have 4 divisions all across the county, having one person trying to service all of us, and he can attest to how often something goes wrong in the courtroom between the iPads.
Never.
Yeah, everything's perfect.
Like I heard some.
Yeah, the jail iPad issue, you know, and it's not, I'm not blaming anyone, it's just technology, right? So you always need somebody, and the end users are really the ones that suffer when we don't have somebody. So we're continuing to work with fiscal services to get the funding, continue the funding necessary for those user support positions. So really, we're pretty happy. I have nothing to complain about today.
This is where we're not.
Smiling. And I did that in less than 10 minutes, I think.
Way to go.
Are you all set?
I'm all set.
All right, well, first off, thank you, Alex and Jeffrey. It's a great presentation, and I love the fact that, first off, that there's no ask, which is great. So it doesn't get better than that. But 2, I just quickly wanna give a shout out to IT as well.
Yes.
Because I feel like I'm probably one of their biggest critics. And for as much as we kind of dog them about all the things going on in the IT world, I mean, it's remarkable to hear about this huge success story. So I don't know if that's already been communicated or we need to communicate, but
I made sure, that's why I wanted to say I've worked with several people over there, but Tammy Shepard has been amazing with all of us. She really has. Rod, you know, keeps his team on task. I mean, it's been great. It's so different than what I'm used to.
I love it. So I will turn over to the commissioners here. I think, we just have one that I'm seeing. Commissioner Powell?
Yep, just really quick. So remember, this was the course that was having the Wi-Fi issue, right?
Yes,
So all of that now is fine.
Yes, everything's fine.
That was
Works
my first
great.
question, just to make sure. Just to make sure, okay.
It took years.
And thank you, because you were the advocate for that.
Oh,
To
you're
make sure us
welcome. Thank you.
commissioners knew. You stood on your own to come tell us what was the problem, and I wanna appreciate, because if y'all don't tell us, we don't know, right? And we always wanna make sure all our departments have all the necessities that they need to be productive in y'all departments. And again, I'm support staff first, so thank you so much for that. And my second question was, when people are considered non-collectible, when you stated that, like,
Right.
what happens with that? And is an emergency situation an exception with that type of an issue? I just want to know from a historic, like, how do y'all deal with them?
Go ahead. No,
Well,
go ahead.
we have, from the court side of things, we try to come up with options for the person. If they are struggling financially, we might say, well, maybe do some community service at a nonprofit and we'll waive some of the fines. Or, do something else. If you don't actually have money, maybe we can work with you. So we try from the court side, and then fiscally, we have a payment clerk who tries to work with a payment plan with them.
So if you were to come in and you had a fine you had to pay and you were to meet with our clerk or our probation officer that handles that, they would go over like your taxes, the last couple of years' taxes, any pay stubs. There are there are people that are just receiving disability. We're not gonna take their disability check for the court. We're just not gonna do that. But then maybe their disability, still they could do something for the community, so the judge would then make a decision, okay, yep, we're gonna have them do this instead.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's just good to hear that there's alternate options, be it, because I know when you fall in default with court, usually is your jail time or higher fine or something.
Yeah.
So it's just good to hear that they have those options. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next we have Commissioner Smith-Charles.
You gotta push your button.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You have to go off the screen.
I honestly don't have anything tangible. I just wanted to compliment the coordination of your color scheme.
Oh, yeah.
That took longer than the presentation.
I was like, you guys got your black on? Okay, all right.
But thank you for all that you do, and of course, I feel like we've seen you a little bit this year at EDI in some fun settings.
Yeah.
So just appreciate your advocacy for all of the 4 locations.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we have Commissioner Whiteberg.
So I'm glad to hear that you aren't asking them that you're happy with fiscal.
I know.
Every year it's been.
You gotta hear my mouth.
You've been pretty demanding when you come over, but the 5,000 for the collection on tax cards, do you think that's gonna yield? I mean, that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, far exceed the 5,000 we will be able to collect, yeah.
And our 326 on the IT liaison's ending, right? Because that was only going through, but is that?
So
It's
we're
helped out.
continuing to work with them on that. They're doing their best to work with us.
It'd be nice.
Other than that, it's good to hear. And all revenues on fines and costs are all down, is it because the volume's down? Or is it?
The volume's down, but also, I mean, you have to remember the
Every
type
quarter,
of
every
volume
quarter.
that's not, yeah, that's not just the volume, but it's the type of volume that's down. So like,
There's no more
our,
marijuanas, there's.
right, so our caseload is starting to go back up, but it's more on the civil side.
Civil side.
So you're not gonna collect large amounts from the civil side, right? So.
And a lot of law enforcement agencies are understaffed. They have a lot of open positions they can't fill, so that relates to, traffic citations and that filters back through.
Because every division has got that reduced.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? We're actually early, and so my only question to you, I don't really have much. What's on your wish list?
Oh, man, don't do that.
Look at you, ain't got her started.
We thought we were gonna get the award for like best fresh shortest.
Come on,
I'm just
what do you
curious.
think? I'm pointing to Clarkson right now. What do you think the wish list is?
We haven't talked about the building, that,
Come on.
we know.
Yeah, that would be the top of our wish list, of course, that's been our concern every year, but we understand that there are other things, which is why we weren't bringing it up.
Yeah.
You started it.
Still there.
No, I know.
Still there, though.
You saw that, Brian, he started it.
No, it's still there.
Commissioner, I just wanted to say though, we are aware of it, at least on the fiscal side, facilities is aware of it. We're communicating with them, I'm talking with facilities and things like that, so just trying to come up with a solution.
It's not going away.
Yeah, and to that end, like, anytime we brought it up before, it would be crickets, I'm not trying to badmouth people who were here before, but it would be crickets. And it's no longer crickets.
Right.
So that gives us a little bit of hope, right? That somebody understands that we're not just saying it because we want this big fancy building. We want it for safety, we wanna be able to comply with HIPAA, we wanna think about the employees. she's biting her tongue off right now, but thanks for bringing it up, but that would be the top of our wish list
Yeah,
forever and
no, I
ever.
appreciate it, for sure. And we've heard the same from other departments as
Yeah.
well. So thank you again to fiscal, because they're doing a great job working with them. Yeah,
I mean, and we authorized the pilot program for the E5,
Yes.
turned out great, right?
It turned out great.
That
Yeah.
was,
perfect. All right, I have nothing
Okay.
else. If we're good,
Thank
thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you guys, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll keep
And then gotta get a harder.
All right,
Nice
thank you,
doing
everybody.
it.
We're gonna reconvene here.
Is this how you run for
Last session.
Marsha, you're getting shoot like school.
All right, thank you. Again, thank you, everybody. This is our last session of budget hearings, last but not least. So we
Save
made
the
it.
best for
Save the
last.
best for last, absolutely.
Then we got
So-
wrap up.
Oh,
true.
That's exciting.
Today?
No, that's.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was just thinking, Marsha, not today, right?
So Madam Clerk, welcome
Thank you.
to you and your team. So we'd love to hear a little bit about what you have from Clerk and Register of Deeds. We've allocated about 45 minutes, so if we can anticipate maybe 20-ish minutes for presentation, 20 minutes or so for Q&A, that would be great. And then we'll turn it over for introductions to your team, and then we'll go from there.
Oh, that'll take some time. Do you guys want me to introduce you or you want to introduce yourselves?
You can introduce themselves.
Wow, what a flat hire.
Go ahead, Jen, start.
I'm Jennifer Howden. I went to the county clerk's office, obviously, and I'm the chief deputy clerk.
And could you please say how long you've been in your current position?
Since 2009, I believe.
9? No, longer than that. It's longer.
In my current position,
Yeah.
2009.
Right when Ruth was on? Okay. She's amazing. All my teammates are amazing. Okay.
But I've been in accounting for what, 33 years, 32 years now?
Okay.
She started
The
in the
majority of it,
mailroom.
yes.
She started in the mailroom.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give okay, these are my SMEs, if you don't know what SME is besides from Captain Hook. Subject matter expert, okay? We are so lucky, I am so lucky to have this team. They are all respected across the state for their knowledge and their expertise, and that's what I just wanna say. We're so, everybody's jealous, that's what I wanna say. So, they are, and like asked to sit on, committees at the state level and all that kind of stuff because they're SMEs, because they're subject matter experts, so I just wanna add that. Okay, anything else you wanna add about yourself?
No, I'm good.
Oh, well,
All right.
and they all deserve raises. Okay, go ahead.
I'll say that.
I'll second that. My name's Craig Jones. I'm the Chief Deputy Register Deeds. Just joined Lisa's team May of 2022, so just over 2 years.
Is that all you wanna say about yourself?
That's about it.
They're very modest. You want me to talk about you?
Sure.
Okay. I first met Craig when he was actually working for our vendor. And then Carmela Saba, may she rest in peace, who was my colleague in Macomb, who ran also, like, we had good competitions, like who could come up with a new great program. And it was a wonderful competition between the two. But anyways, Craig went to go work for her, and then when she retired, he went back to work for a vendor. And I tried to steal him away once before, and that didn't work, but now it happened. And so, and all of my colleagues, all my Register of Deeds colleagues are like so jealous, because they don't know Craig. So anyways, I don't have to introduce myself, right? You know me. Okay, go ahead. You know him. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm Joe Roselle, the Director of Elections. Been in this role since January of '07. Started under Ruth Johnson, then Bill Bullard, and now Cliff Brown. Yeah. Of course.
No,
And,
you can't ask that, no. You have to say that one now though, Joe. Yeah.
And been at the county for 22 years. And so I worked in management and budget, fiscal services for a period of time before coming over to the clerk's office.
Do you want to say what else you did outside of the county that led you to be in elections, because you had some?
Yeah, I had left the county for a period of time, went into municipal government, city government, thought I wanted to be a city manager for a period of time, decided.
Where did you do that?
In Lapeer. Decided city management wasn't what I wanted to do long-term in terms of job security, so decided to come back to the county, and it was a good move. So I came back and was in management and budget for a while, and then came over to the clerk's office.
We're lucky to have you.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
All of them are amazing. Do I have to talk about these slides, or are they
Not
just
really,
there
yeah.
to give me a backdrop to, like a halo behind my head?
Tell us what you need us to know.
Michael.
What do you need to know? So, one thing We put out an RFP for a Register of Deeds for our land records management system. We got 8 responses back. We're gonna be having demos from 5, as long as IT says they're all good, right?
They've all confirmed,
Okay,
yep.
so, financially, it probably won't, I don't know who I'm going with, so I don't know what prices it's gonna be, right, what it's gonna look like, but it could have an impact on my budget, not this fiscal year, but the next fiscal year, so. Again, not knowing who I'm going with and what that contract looks like, but just on the horizon, that'll be something. One thing that I did insist upon with all of the vendors, I told them that they have to have something like my property records notification, that I will not go backwards, because still nobody else has a property records notification system like mine. It's my baby, and I'm not going backwards. Other counties have something that is just based on their name, and I don't know about all you guys, but I'm not the only Lisa Brown in Oakland County, so it's really not helpful to have just a name-based alert system. So they all know that, and we'll see what we get moving forward. And then there's other little things that I don't know, we hope that they create, because I said, hey, why don't we have this? And nobody has it, and anyway, and we will be, hopefully maybe next month, I'll be announcing another program that is the first of its kind in the country. So that might be next month. So excited about that. What else? Early voting, thank you for your support in allowing us to partner with 45 out of our 52 communities to run early voting. Positive feedback all the way around on that from the workers, the voters, everybody. So thank you for your support on that. We don't know what reimbursement on that will look like in the future. Right now we've been getting money from the state for reimbursement for every cost. But we don't, that's the big question everybody's wondering, what will that look like in the future? So I don't know, but I do appreciate the support, and we are saving communities money, right? So we are eventually saving taxpayer dollars by doing these collaborations. What else? Case management system still hanging out there, stressing me out. There's that. If you all know what's going on with that. I think I brought it up before. Yeah, all right, So anyways, we're not really any closer to anything. But out of my hands. Oh, yeah, okay. I don't know, that was in the Detroit News and Gongor, if anybody saw. Why can't everyone be like Oakland County when it comes to election results? I don't know if you saw that. Colleague in Macomb had to say something negative about us. I can't help that he's jealous. We are viewed around the state as the best, and we take a lot of pride in that. We work hard for that. Our AV counting board, again, thank you for your support and us being able to do that. Again, we're saving communities money. We count absentee ballots for 20 of our communities. North, south, east, west, big, small, it doesn't matter, just a variety. And we were done for lunch and counted a little over 51,000 ballots this August. So we're doing wonderful things. I know one of the questions was something about efficiency and effective, we are making elections, we make everything more efficient, honestly, every single one of my divisions. What else?
How about all these vacancies you got?
So the vacancies, we had more, it's going backwards, okay. Oh, that's not that one.
You can use the clicker. It's right there. Clicker.
Slide 6. Slide 6. Okay, so we had more vacancies during COVID because we could not hire people. What our jobs are to be trained, to be able to do what my whole team does, you have to be sitting right next to somebody to learn it. This isn't something you can learn on your own. So we were really frozen in being able to hire anybody because we could not train them. So it was a little frustrating and tenuous, but you know, that's where we were. So people retired, you know, don't forget there was what was it called?
Early incentive.
The early incentive, like right before that. So we had people who did take that. Some of them had deferred it for 2 years, you know, so the timing of it, and then COVID, we had so many vacancies, especially in clerk register and, in legal, and just could not fill them because of the reason that we could not train. So that was that. We are, I will say, each one of my divisions has either voluntarily or involuntarily, we now have more tasks to do, more things to do than when I started. In legal, we now have ERPOs, so extreme risk protection orders. We have to redact PII, personal identifying information, auto set-asides, and those didn't come from, you know, that's not self-inflicted, right? That was from the legislature and from the State Court Administrative Office. So we have more things that we have to do, but have not been able to increase how many positions we have. So I was told that I would have to find the money to do that, even though they're unfunded mandates that we've been tasked with. So each division, we've had more to do, or we've taken on just to be more efficient and collaborate with our locals. So
We have one vacancy in our office now that we're trying to fill, but I will say candidly, it's difficult to find good candidates in this market. We are having a hard time, and
We are struggling as well.
Yeah, we've reached out to HR's recruiting folks and said, you've got to cast a wider net. You've got to figure out a way to get this message out. I mean, it takes even year election cycle and an odd year cycle to get somebody fully acclimated. And we're trying to bring someone in with some experience. We're telling them, push it on the municipal league's website, push it on MTA's website, get it out there so we can find somebody with experience. I mean, to do what we're doing even down one body is extremely difficult. But we are hoping to have this vacancy filled in the next couple months. So that's the only one that exists in our division.
And to add to that, elections isn't an area that people are jumping to be in right now.
That is the
because
truth.
of the threats. Joe's received a threat, I've received a threat. And there are over 120 townships across the state that have no clerk candidate on the ballot.
Neither party. No candidate.
Zero.
Zero.
So people are like, I'm out. Since 2021, at the county level, we've had 20 new county clerks. So, you know, you have to have it in your heart to want to be involved in this work, because it's not what it was when I started. And I mean, we do a great job, but it's just something that, you know, people don't. It's not worth it. And there was, I think, an office in Colorado where every single employee from the elections office left. They had not a single person because they all said, it's not worth it.
And Virginia.
It's not worth it. You know, the threats, the harassment, I mean, it's nonstop. They don't stop.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's a lot to have to deal with. So anyway, so yes, we'd love to hire more people and have fully staffed offices, but it's just not easy to find qualified people who want to do the job. What else? What other questions?
If you're done with the presentation, I can turn it over to the commissioners.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what time it is, but you know.
Let's take questions.
Oh, another efficiency, yeah, e-filing, hopefully,
Yes.
I don't know if you're all in that, but you're enjoying that. For campaign finance. We beta tested it for, I don't know how, like years, I feel like.
A year.
And a few filings and I kept saying, Joe, it's not doing this, Joe, it's not doing that, and still trying to even, improve it, but I know I love it. It took a long time to get it, but I think that it was worth the wait and it's a great program and hopefully you feel all that way too. I guess it wouldn't be a budget hearing without me mentioning fire suppression. I mean, I say it with a shrug of my shoulders because
It's on my
I don't
list
know.
here. You take it by thunder. I was gonna ask about that.
It's disheartening, I'm not gonna lie. I've been saying it year after year after year. And,
Since you've been here.
I see other things that you pass, I see other expenditures. And to think that the safety of my team, the security of the important documents that we are in charge of doesn't meet a level of importance, and maybe that's not the right word, but just that our priority. I hate to keep saying it, but I sit here and I go, do I say something or do I not say
I
something?
have it on my list. I was saying it
No,
for you.
but every year I hear the same thing,
I know.
like, oh, we've gotta do something about that, and I know it's expensive. I'm not denying that it's not, but it's just hard. So I sit here, I struggle, do I say something, do I not say something? But I have to say something because it's still an issue. I would love for my staff in the Register of Deeds office to have an enclosed area where they can have their lunch. They have to eat their lunch in front of the public, in front of customers, or right next to other employees who are working, because we have, we don't all take lunch at once because we don't close for lunch. So anyway, so somewhere I think it's in the capital improvement, but I'm sure it's far down the line. So, yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
Do we know offhand, just my own question, are you part of the move? And I know the list was sent over as far as who's moving to Pontiac.
I am not.
You are not part of that?
Correct.
So for sure you're gonna be
Areas
here.
that already have fire suppression are the ones that are moving, so.
Yeah, so maybe.
I'm not. I was not, no, we're not moving.
It's an issue.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll discuss that. So, but let me turn over to the commissioners here. So the first one I have is Commissioner Wong.
So Lisa, you knew I was gonna ask about your fire suppression. It's on my list, so you can, so I really do think if they're not moving, we have to make I think things are a little different and moving. I think they're listening a little better this year, maybe. So I definitely agree for your safety of your employees and the records, all that paper records that you have. So that's crazy to me that you don't have fire suppression. I think you've been asking for it since you were elected, which is, I don't know how many years now, but I was here this whole time, so I know. So I had that on my list, and I really would like to put that on your radar too, that, she really needs fire suppression if she's not moving over.
And I wanna say, most of our things we have scanned in electronically, but we have historic records that
That's what I'm
cannot be
saying.
duplicated.
That cannot be replaced.
We just had, I guess not just, was it a year ago, Mr. Cross?
About a year ago.
Okay, we had a gentleman donate a county atlas from
1918.
17, something like that. But it needed a new cover and but otherwise in really wonderful condition. And if anybody is interested in it, like I love looking at it. It's just cool when you're looking at these old maps and you're seeing like this area and it was John Smith, people's names who own the property and how many acres and I don't know, I like that. I'm kind of nerdy, but I like that kind of stuff. So we have this beautiful atlas. We have other atlases as well. We haven't recovered them or anything, rebound them, but no, 2 we just did actually.
We preserved 2.
2 of them. So, yes, most of our records, so if you're saying, oh, why aren't they scanning things in? Why aren't they electronic? They are, but we have historic things as well.
Did you want to answer about the fire suppression?
I looked into it when we actually had our budget meeting. And what I was told, and this is just because everything I've seen hasn't had a number attached to it.
Okay.
I was told because of the way the ceiling, that would all have to be redone, it was in excess of $15 million. So that's the kind of dollars that facilities was trying to get together, and as we've talked about, you know, when they're getting $2 million a year to support the buildings, it would take several years to accumulate.
So is it a
that $14 million.
possibility the whole clerk's office could move somewhere with fire suppression when the other buildings are gonna be empty? It might be cheaper than 15 million, I don't know, I'm just bringing it out there, cause I think they need fire suppression
I mean, I'm just
somewhere.
gonna say, I don't see any sprinklers in this building, it's
Yeah.
not just, I mean, in this
I know.
room, it's not just me.
Right.
It's not just me, I mean,
Right.
maybe I'm the only one who's been talking about it,
Right.
but it's not just
But
me.
I just worry about records that are still paper. So, and then another thing I wanted to tell you, since you're here, I'll move on so then someone else can go. E-filing, excellent. Your staff is excellent in assisting me when I, you know, sometimes I sent in the wrong one and I'm like, but they're really great to work with. They're very professional. They call you back. I just want to shout out to them for helping with stuff because I'm getting it now, but I mean, it was something different.
Yes.
And then early voting, and I told you this, Lisa, that I went just so that if people came for public comment, thinking people were cheating early voting and all this, I didn't know what we were gonna get. I went in Commerce, excellent. They had an issue, like my license, I wrote my birth date so messy on my form. She took it, she really looked at my ID like a long time and everyone's like, well, we all know her here, but this lady didn't. But I'm like, I don't care if you know me or not. I'm glad she's looking at my date, my birth, my birth date really good.
Yeah.
And she, looked at my license for kind of a long time, so I felt very confident. They were professional. It was just like election day, so I want to shout out. That was very good. We hear different things, so I thought I'm gonna do that in person, go early this year. I normally like going to election day, but I did go vote early and it was run very well, so.
Thank you.
Shout out, it was good.
Thank
And
you.
I'm done.
Early voting's the best, I recommend everybody do it. It's the best.
Commissioner Watt, Commissioner Cavell.
Thank you. Hey Lisa, I just had a question. I noticed on the budget, on your slides, it talks about kind of like a revenue going up to almost to over $24 million, and then now it's going down and expected to kind of continue going down.
Yep.
What's that about?
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but was it last year or 2 years ago? The budget was increased mostly in the deeds department. If you remember, interest rates were really low.
Mhm.
Everybody was refinancing, all that sort of thing. So I didn't want the budget to be adjusted because I knew that was going to change. And Kyle Jen had said, well, we'll lower it when that happens. And of course, the very next year, yes. So our filings and deeds are way down because everybody was refinancing. And so we had an increase then.
Got it.
The market has changed. That's what happens.
Okay.
Okay.
And to all those filings, are there any, we just had courts folks in here and there, right, there's state laws on how much you can charge for certain things. I'm sure you have a lot of those for the things you can charge for. But are there things you can unlift the cap on or something like that?
I don't have the authority to change the fee for anything. You have the authority for some things, but I personally don't have the authority to do anything.
Okay, but things in your office,
We can.
the Board of Commissioners
Yes.
can change the fee schedule for.
Some things,
Some,
yes,
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Didn't we
We did one.
gave the authority to waive on some people
Yes,
versus?
vital
That's what
records.
it's asking.
Vital
Yes,
records,
so
yeah.
vital records, and we did,
Phil.
thank you,
Yeah.
Phil, yes, so, and that program is still utilized, I
Yeah, we
appreciate
just have to
that,
vote
we
for it.
are helping people. And Charlie, you weren't here when that was started, but, through the power of the board, we have a program that allows the fee for a vital record, so birth, marriage, death, 99% are birth, to be either reduced or waived. But the person has to, it's with a partnership with an accredited social service agency. So it's not somebody just walking up to the counter, because we're not checking their finances, right? They're already getting help from somebody because they have financial struggles. So And I'm really kind of honored and flattered. Kalamazoo, I sent them all of my stuff and they just duplicated our program. But yeah, so vital records, that's a fee. It is capped in statute. We can't charge more than what the state charges, but it's up to the Board of Commissioners up until that point, what we charge. We are pretty much in line with all of our neighbors, our neighboring counties. 2 charge more than we do, Genesee and Wayne. And I believe 1 charges less. I'm saying like 6 out of 6 neighboring counties around us. I think Lapeer charges less. I have that all in my office, but everybody else charges basically what we do. I think maybe we charge less on the seniors' birth certificates. I think not everybody's following the law on that one. But anyway, that's besides the point. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But costs related to early voting and absentee processing, we brought as a board resolution and you authorized those, you know, cost recoveries. And so, because that's not outlined in state law.
Right.
So anything like that, we brought to
And what we pay our canvassers.
and the workers
And the
and all that,
workers, yeah. Yeah, what we charge for waiving the 3-day waiting period for a marriage license, that is set by you.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it hasn't been changed since you've been here, so you missed all that.
Yeah, right, okay.
Camille, you done?
Well, I guess just to follow up on that, I mean, would you be open to talking about which one of those fees that can be being increased for those able to afford it, as like a fee schedule?
I mean, that's not something I care to, that's not for me to say.
Okay.
And I don't know, yeah.
Okay.
That's on you.
Okay.
So.
Great.
Commissioner Gershenson?
Thank you. Joe, I am lucky enough to file my personal campaign finance report and the caucuses. Caucuses cannot go electronically.
Not yet.
What do you see?
Not yet. So PACs and ballot question committees, we don't have integrated into e-filing yet. We're working with the vendor, Macomb County, Kent County, Washtenaw County and us have all made the same request. So it's in process.
Just not there yet.
Not there yet. Took a long time to work through all the statutory implementations with just the candidate committees. It's different setup, you know.
It was a lot.
Yeah, different set, so it's in the works,
mentioning it.
yes.
Okay. And then nowadays, you can give 25 cents through Act Blue to a campaign account. So the people that are recording all those 25 cents, I'm just wondering if on the horizon anywhere, there's any effort to streamline that or?
So, yes, so hopefully, so I have put in a request that Act Blue, for example, there is a button on there to export so that you would send it into, you know, that it would automatically fill. So we're gonna talk to our vendors and see if that's a possibility that information could be uploaded in.
Once the PACs are.
Yeah, well, but for that though, for candidates is what, I mean.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about candidates, yeah.
There was also a period of time when the statute did not require reporting for under $20. So those could just be reported as an aggregate on the summary. That statute was amended to require even the 25 census to be reported. That could also be fixed legislatively too. I don't know what the you know, Clerks Association or what the temperature is, but there was a point in time where if it was less than $20.01, it could go as an aggregate on a summary.
Okay, well, keep me posted.
So
I think I had 25 pages.
Well, you guys have a lobbyist, you might wanna, you know, talk to him and see if you can get that back, cause it is a lot to have to report
it
just
is.
25 cents, that's a lot.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Gershenson. Commissioner Paul?
As much as we want transparency in every aspect of our elections, it was $20.
So I wanted to kudos and support what Chris Long said about the filing system and help that we get for the e-filing here. I went through it and it's good that your workers make us do it though, right? Unless it's somehow someone just can't. So thank you for that. But one thing I had to ask, is for, you know what, never mind, I'll ask that because it got to do something with like, I don't think it's appropriate for this, but I'll ask that later, so thank you. I just caught myself. I can ask y'all when we done.
Okay.
And then Commissioner Whiteper, I think had a question.
Joe, and I mean, $500,000 down on supplies, is it because of e-filing or is it off year or how'd you do that?
Off year, it has to do a lot of times with when the election falls, when the ballots are ordered, when we get invoiced.
That's really the invoice,
It's
is really,
really,
because
so if we miss the cutoff, it ends up in the next fiscal year.
So most likely November, the cost for obviously, even though we have to order the ballots well before, we have to order ballots in September, which is this fiscal year. Most likely, it's not gonna come out, it won't come out of this fiscal year's budget, that'll come out of next fiscal year's budget.
Yeah.
That means it's $1 million in '24, $500,000.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
I was thinking that, it's not the.
Yeah, so
right
I'll
number,
probably
so
ask for
it's
a
a
carry
cycle.
forward, you know,
Okay.
because if, depending upon when the invoice comes and all that, it might just be a carry forward because that'll be, yeah.
And there were some expenses up until recently that didn't work this way, but recently there were some expenses that were direct billed to the state that we were like passing through. And so that dynamic changed, but it's gonna shift back to us. So it's kind of a temporary thing.
And that's another one is waiting on reimbursement from the state on a lot of things. So we do have a reimbursement
We have millions outstanding.
line in our budget. And yeah, Jonathan talked about that. He was like, oh, they're all done, but everyone's like, we didn't get our money. So anyway, so, you know, there is an offset for some of our expenses that we get reimbursed from the state or we get reimbursed from the locals if we're contracting with them. But the state has been very, very slow in getting through all that.
We're still waiting on the reimbursement from November of '23's pilot program for early voting. We're waiting on millions of dollars for the February presidential primary that they haven't even begun to process our applications under state law for that. They say this, but I mean, I can assure you.
But nobody's gotten their check. Yeah.
Nobody's gotten a wire transfer, nobody's gotten a check. They are so embarrassingly slow at releasing these dollars.
They said they had hired one person to do it and realized that wasn't sufficient, so they hired, I think, 3 more. He just said, but
Giving you any time frame at all, or
no,
nobody knows?
no. Checks in the mail.
That's always a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my only couple comments is I want to echo the same sentiment about e-file. So thank you. I think it's a godsend. I think it's the best thing that ever happened, you know, as far as filing goes. It's just so simple and so
Been
straightforward.
working on it for years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my other question was in regards to facilities and, you know, not to beat a dead horse, and I know you're not moving. But what is the thought, you know, have they looked at space elsewhere? You know, if we've already identified, you know, the folks that are moving. I guess my first question is, would it even be feasible or practical, given the volume of things you have? I'd imagine it's cheaper than $15 million to put in fire suppression. But has anybody
So I
started that
think, yeah, it's
conversation?
gonna, on anything on facilities, in addition to just the system, they would have to vacate their space. So you also have what are called transition or moving costs on a temporary basis. So the question is, if there's a better way for what needs to be suppressed, is it somewhere else, you know, or I have more storage? So it's not just, you know, while they're working, taking down the ceiling tiles and working over the workers. So the cost is gonna be a little bit more than just the 15 million, because there's moving or transition costs as well. Then the last thing I would just say then, from my perspective, where are they gonna go with people? I mean, do they need more space? You heard that from Pete yesterday from Indigent Defense. They got their new space. They're gonna add one more, now they're out. So it's just that long-term
Right.
situation. And then the other question is forward-facing. I know that there is questions like, if there is people coming down to Pontiac, should there be satellites? I don't know those answers, but the question is, how are we gonna make this customer service? I mean, you all talk about what you're doing for yourselves and filing things, so the other question is, what else, how easy is the bus line to come here to this building?
Thank you.
All those type of things, so.
Well, I have a satellite office in the South Oakland office building.
Yeah, I'm saying the question I'm talking about in Pontiac downtown, when, there, because
okay.
from that perspective, I don't know the answers, but these are the questions that are percolating now,
Yeah.
so.
So I will add that, there are some statutory requirements for some things with my office. For instance, deeds needs to be co-located with treasurer. For tax certification of deeds. So, it's not just, just
Can't
move
be.
clerk somewhere. There's things, and of course, we're court, so,
Yeah. You gotta
it's
stick
not,
there.
I don't wanna say that it would be easy otherwise, but it's just, there's a lot of,
More complicated.
yes.
And the suppression issue is complicated too, because as we've discovered, like, say with the voting equipment, whether it burns in a fire or you spray water all over it, it's ruined, right? So we had to be creative because we have a water-based suppression system in the part of the building where elections is at. But we have to tarp the voting equipment to avoid it, from getting wet and cage it. And so there were steps
And
we
keep
had to
things off
take
the
to
floor
keep
as
them off
well.
the floor because of flooding in case it were to go off over a weekend. So, same thing with paper records, whether they burn up or you spray water all over them, they're ruined, right? So you have to be creative about what types of suppression that we look at, when we do that.
Is there sort of an industry standard, even maybe comparing to adjacent counties, like what is Wayne or Macomb or Kent doing?
Or nationally.
Or nationally, correct, yeah,
Well, some folks have, in other elections offices around the country, they've looked at systems that pull, oxygen from the room. Where you have X amount of time to exit, and then the oxygen's pulled out the room and the fire goes out. That's what they do to save, put out the fire and prevent the equipment. Others use a powdery, foamy chemical that isn't as destructive as water. So there are other systems, speaking on the election side, that colleagues across the country do. But we're working with what we have, but I'm just saying that, when the discussion time comes, we can't just assume it's gonna be like a water-based suppression that currently exists.
Right, and I don't know what that cost was looking at. Nobody asked for requirements about what suppression should look like.
Entail, yeah.
Right, so I don't know if that 15 is a water-based suppression.
I asked facilities about the conversation, because I had not been involved in the conversation, and as we've been trying to do with all the departments, really understand what the needs are and what the asks are, and that's what I was told. And so I'm kind of assuming that they were thinking water suppression, because they talked about taking the ceiling down, they'd have to do the light fixtures and all of that stuff. But I do numbers, not buildings, so I'm not sure.
It's true.
I don't wanna be snarky, but, I'm gonna be a little snarky. Hearing that other divisions, other departments, in other buildings have, brand new kitchens with stainless steel appliances and quiet rooms and gyms and all these things, and a lot of those places are moving to downtown Pontiac, and all this money was put into them with all these extra things, and I'm asking for something that is about security and safety.
You saying that, if I could, just to maybe round out this point and close our budget session as a whole.
Yeah.
Because it's the last thing. Our budget is our value statement. So we spend money on what we prioritize or value. And that goes for any number of things. So I say that to say there in a sense is no extra money ever, but there is also in another sense always extra money. It just depends on what we care about. So we can care about fire suppression, we can care about a bunch of helicopters, we can care about all sorts of things. But we're the ones that decide which one of those priorities gets to the top of the list and why.
Okay, we done?
I think so.
Wait, I have one more
Commissioner
thing I
Pop.
just wanted to ask Chairman, if you could ask or see if we can get an update from facilities, because now I see our concern with just getting an update about this suppression issue, because we do have the conflictual information of water, the new different tech. And then for them to say that, you know, I don't know what that conversation has been with facilities and when they had the last conversation, just so we're knowledgeable, because we know this is a situation that we need to face or need. So if we, Chairman, if you can ask for us to get a report from facilities so we know what this number is, that'd be great.
Well, and to your point, the fact that it's recurring year after year after year, I mean, it's.
I know, and I don't wanna be snarky, but I will tell you, like, it's disheartening and hearing like, you know, you put your values, like the budget is your values or what you deem important, and year after year I come here and I'm like, okay, guys, I
Right,
guess
but
we're
let me
not
say
important,
this
you
in
know, it
fairness,
just it hurts a
you
little.
said it,
Just
but
hurts.
now that, I just love this, how everybody's working, and we're kind of doing things a little bit different. We haven't personally requested though to see what's going on with your stuff. So,
And again, it's
and I've
not
been
just-
here, and I've been here, and I've been here 6, I don't recall us asking facilities, can you give us an update of what's going on with this fire? I don't recall that.
No,
So that's what I
don't
wanna
think we did.
ask, so, especially since we're in budget talks, not to say, not to promise nothing, I know you know, I just go. But we as commissioners, I don't recall us asking for an update to find out what is this? When we've asked specifically for everybody else who didn't came and asked us. So to be fair, that's why I put that on the table for our chairman to ask for that so we can get it, cause we're in that discussion right now. So we're gonna try our best, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, with that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have one last request, if I may, and that is, so. Last year, something was changed in my budget and nobody said anything to me. And I just happened to find out in a weird way. And I would appreciate the courtesy, thank you, that if something is changing in my budget, if something's being removed from my office duties and put somewhere else, that I'm at least told about it. So, and I'm just gonna say, what's the date? August 22nd?
Yeah.
And we still don't have directories, cause that was taken away from my office.
Yeah.
So who does it now?
That's
Public communication, I already complained to them.
So,
Yeah.
Which community,
Public
Culture
communications, yeah.
Department?
Yeah, I already talked about it with them, about
so,
it.
you know,
It was horrible.
nobody said anything to me.
Right.
And
Oh, that got taken out, yeah.
I would just
Stressful.
appreciate the courtesy of, you know, and I still don't know why. We did a great job. You would have all had directories by
We'd
now,
have had 'em in
obviously for
March,
months, so.
August.
And not only that, usually
I
with our
just-
peers
tell her I
in
stuck up
different
for 'em, didn't I?
counties,
It's the county-
clerks do that. I mean,
That
that's
is-
the responsibility of
I stuck up for you guys.
the 83 counties, right?
Yeah, across the state, it is the county clerk. You know, why? Elections having that information. We're forward facing, so people are getting that information from us. I mean, just all the different aspects of it, but whatever. It is what it is, it's done. I'm just putting it out there that if there's some other surprise, if someone could please let me know.
Sure, absolutely. No, I agree. All right, anybody under the discussion? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
His office would call
You guys
me.
not
Is there
have
a
any?
cell number you want in still?
Do you not have any?
I think we have a couple boxes left.
What, of the 2023s?
No, the new ones are in the hall.
Yeah, they're in the hall.
Oh, didn't know?
Do you guys want me to move it?
Commissioners, we're moving into public comment?
We're gonna
Oh,
move on.
sorry, I gotta sit still.
I have something I wanna add. Are we done?
Is it
Public
we said
comment,
public
and then
comment,
you
and then we have. All right, we're gonna move on. This is a call for public comment. Any speaker that wishes to address the finance committee has 3 minutes to do so. Not seeing anybody here for public comment, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Do we have any other business
I do.
to come before the committee?
Thank you. Number one, I wanted to acknowledge Hillary Chambers. Her last day of work is tomorrow.
Oh, yeah,
I
shout
am
out.
hoping that her department is doing something for her. We haven't heard about it,
Right.
but just wanna thank her for her, I think, 5 to 6 years of service. I also wanted to acknowledge, I don't know if it's facilities, those sunflowers that are off Telegraph
yeah,
are
they're awesome.
unbelievable. And I would wonder
Yeah.
who's gonna take the sunflower seeds so we can maybe get some extra cash. I wanted to thank our chair, Gwen Markham, who isn't with us today, but I hope she's actually sleeping and not listening, but for doing an amazing job again. And remind everybody that our post-general filings are due on September 5th, by September 5th.
What's our closing, what's our closing date?
Post-primary, 26, Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Monday.
I was gonna get my little guide out, but thank you.
Yeah. But you should have gotten a phone call from
Yeah, maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
I
thank
didn't spend
them for
anything,
that
but I just
reminder,
gotta-
because it was definitely not
Yeah.
on my radar.
Yeah, I knew it was coming out.
My only comment, thank you to everybody on this committee that's been part of this, you know, for the last 2 weeks. I know it's a big commitment, and for those of you that have sacrificed what you have to be here, we really appreciate it. Thank you again to our finance folks for everything. It's been, you know, the feedback, I think the feedback we've heard from every department, I've only done this this is my second budget hearing ever, so I don't have much to compare it against, but it feels different to me as well. It just, the whole process seems much more streamlined, it feels like it's more collaborative.
Let's take a shot.
You know, I think all the departments appreciate it, we appreciate it, I appreciate it, so thank you for that. Human resources as well, thank you. I think it was really critical having you here for many of the discussions as well. So I feel like the process has changed. And I think it's gonna make a difference in the long haul, and people are gonna have much more confidence in the transparency and the collaborative nature of it.
It's good.
And this is your first year together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Absolutely.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, so thank you. So with that, yes, and
Our
I,
first 6 months. How long have you been here?
5.
5 months.
yeah.
And you know, I don't know if that we've met, you've been here and.
Well, my name's
She's been here.
Yeah.
She's been here forever.
She's been here forever.
Oh, I get your emails all the time.
Oh, 13, I thought you were longer than that.
She's not on
Yeah.
finance.
Well, I was at equalization,
Okay,
Yeah, you were here a long time.
MMB for 13 years and then
Yeah.
13 years.
that's what I'm saying, you've been here longer as an employee than I've been here, so I know.
And you're with HR.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and.
Yeah, just quickly for other business commissioners, I wanna remind everyone that budget wrap-up is on September 11th. If you don't feel like you know enough about what's gonna be happening in terms of amendments and budgets and our process, please see staff so we can walk you through it. We'll walk you through what happened last year and years before and give you a heads up on what to expect this year. But as
What
you
does that mean?
So we need
Is
to
there a
meet
finance
before.
meeting or?
Yep, so there's a finance meeting on September 11th where we'll have the actual budget presented again here and any amendments that fiscal services has to present as well as commissioners. That will then have a vote on any amendments that may impact that recommended budget, and then that recommended budget is sent to the full board. And as commissioners may remember, at the full board meeting is where we may have other amendments that we're used
Right.
to seeing, like the tri-party,
Tri-party and local road.
LRIP. And so those will not need to happen here at budget wrap-up. If there's even bigger ideas, those can all happen at full board. Budget wrap-up is really an opportunity for us to clean up any amendments that we've discussed here at the finance committee meetings or fiscal services has found out about.
So any priorities or any discussions that the caucuses have, we need to be doing all of that before September 11th, is that
Right.
correct?
And then
Okay.
can I add to that? And also, will we get a list of that as soon as, even though it might be changing, I would like to see it before,
So,
what?
like in the 1st of September at least,
See
to
what?
see the amendment list, the wrap-up list.
I don't know if it'll be done. We're
The-
meeting September 4th.
Yeah, so the wrap-up list will be done, that's what we're talking about here at finance, or just these small amendments that fiscal services and staff work on.
Okay.
The larger grandiose type amendments, tri-party, LRIP, those have to be handled more at full board. So maybe they're not as tight of a deadline as September 11th, but
But just
We
for
will
our
try,
knowledge
Chris.
and you all.
Right.
but you will be getting those
Right,
amendments in
just so I
writing.
can
Start
know, like, if
having-
something comes up, like, it's real, I want
And
to
and
have time to
and I'll say
investigate it,
this,
whether
because
it's
our
vote
deadline
no.
is August 30th.
Right?
Okay, is like,
Yeah, but then our group is meeting September 4th.
right, well, what I was just gonna suggest is if they had anything on the other side to get it to
It's probably the
Well,
same.
yeah,
Dave.
Chris,
you go.
That's what I
Phil, if your caucus does have things you wanna put forward,
Yeah.
You gotta, I
Anytime.
think you should get them today,
Yeah.
like ASAP, so
Yeah.
he'll know.
Yeah,
okay?
well, Phil and I will work on that real fast.
Well, and just to provide some clarity, some commissioners have done that, working with leadership. Commissioner Joliet's $2 million effort for township
she
road
doing
They know how this go, I'm
is
just saying.
again
Yeah, I
being
know.
discussed. I certainly,
thank you,
know.
Mike.
okay, is that the
You know
same
my-
amount
you
of
know my
money she's
comment.
asking for?
It was I commented.
All right, so we'll go ahead and officially adjourn here at 4:12. Thank you, everybody.